For almost a decade on my TV show Interview with Ed, I've been interviewing extra-dimensional beings and consciousnesses from a number of different realms. Many of my questions have been answered, but with every answer comes more questions. Join me on my ongoing quest to find out, who are we? Why are we here? And where are we going? All right, we are here with Beverly Rickard. And last time we had you on, we went all over the place. I went all over the place because there was so much to cover. And I was trying to get a lot in a short amount of time. And this time we have just you for the full 2 hours, maybe even longer if it goes that long. Everybody buckle up because I know Beverly has a lot to share. And we've been chatting on the sidelines a little bit leading up to this. Beverly had a death in the family a couple weeks ago. We had to reschedule, but seems like the stars have finally aligned.
Yes.
Hey, Beverly. Welcome back.
Hey.
So good to see you. Let's see. I know you and I have had some interesting conversations, and there's so much to cover. I'm going to kind of let you guide us on this journey, and I'll back up. But I just want to reiterate. So guys, I don't know if you've been paying attention to some of the things I've been posting or talking about. I don't know how many of you guys follow me on Twitter? Anybody, any Twitter followers out there? Raise your hands. Okay, sweet. So I'm a little more, I push up the Twitter thing a little bit more. And if you've seen the Project Veritas leak that has caused ripples in the zeitgeist of humanity, as well as I shared with you my information from Japan about the track and trace programs. Tony Blair, obviously reiterating that in Davos at his Davos meeting with the World Economic Forum. So there's I dropped these little nuggets because they're dot connectors for I think what we're about to hear today. So the floor is yours, Beverly. And then again, everybody, this could be triggering. So just know that this is our perspectives based on collecting the data, Beverly's intuition. If it's not resonating, that's okay. You might, at any point, if you tune out, you're not going to upset us. We're just sharing what's coming through and allowing everybody to feel into it, how they feel into it. There's no gospel truth here and there's no absolutes. This is just opinions and feelings and our own research. That's our disclaimer. All right.
Yes.
So what's happening, Beverly? Yes.
Oh my God. Wonderful disclaimer. And yes, these are actually channeled messages that have gone on for years through me. And so everybody's kind of getting a lot of messages that I've received and then I've had to work with and integrate into my own reality, my own understanding, my own feeling for years. But you all are kind of, if we stay on this call long enough, you'll get a lot of these different channeled information that I've received from higher energy and source and power. None of this may make sense in the reality right now. I don't know. But that's not what it's supposed to be. It's just channeled messages that are supposed to help us and help us understand and grow and learn, question, search for answers, whatever it is. So this is not like we're going off of like fact. Honestly, at this point, it's really going to be interesting to figure out what the actual facts are with where our reality is. So let's just start there. So, years ago, I was given the channeled message, and this is very important. And for anybody that is astrology based, you'll understand this, but I'm going to do my best to kind of keep it condensed while explaining. But I was shown this entire visualization with given the information. And then I actually went and witnessed the great conjunction with many other people in this world and this planet. And this is very important to humanity. And that's why I'm going to go back to this channeled message to get us kicked off and started. Because it's huge.
Just to reiterate, so the Great Conjunction, I don't know if you guys remember, we had these planets aligning, I think it was at 2020 or 2021? 2020.
2020.
Right. And
December 21st.
That's right. I remember. Yeah, isn't that crazy? The timing on a winter solstice, 2020, and we were deep in COVID at that time. This was right when major shifts. I remember at that time there was tons of planetary meditations going on where we were all, many of the groups out there were putting together these online massive meditations to help the energy on the planet. So go ahead.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so the Great Conjunction had to do with a few different elements, and I'm going to start with what the Great Conjunction was. And it happens every 20 years. But this one is different because Saturn and Jupiter are the two planets involved, and they're the two biggest planets that are in our inner reality. And I'll get more to that. But they aligned the closest they've been, and I think it was either 400 years at that time. Now, they have never conjuncted at the degree that they conjuncted at in the sky, and I'm going to get to why that's important. So let's talk a little bit about Saturn for just a second. Saturn is the planet of restriction, the boundaries, the rules, the regulations, everything, time. Even our time in this reality is regulated by Saturn. Binds us to this reality and creates all of our rules and regulations. He's like the father of everybody. You know, if you don't do what you're supposed to be doing, he reprimands you. And so that's why this is very important, because then Jupiter comes in with him. And Jupiter is the biggest beneficial planet that we have within our inner reality. And Jupiter expands everything he touches in like the highest beneficial ways: education, money, food. Spiritual awareness, anything he is affecting, he expands on in such a great way. And so we have these two opposite end polarities of the biggest planets coming together, the closest conjunction point they've been in quite a while. And then so we've got one polarity and one polarity, and they're coming together like this, and they're meeting up and they're taking hands. Now, Saturn is the father of Jupiter. Okay, so it's father and son. Jupiter was never supposed to live. That's another thing that a lot of people might know and they might not know.
Jupiter was never supposed to live? Jupiter being the father,
No.
right?
No, Jupiter is the son of Saturn.
Oh, okay. Okay. Interesting.
Because Saturn was eating his babies.
Oh, well, wait. Saturn's the father. Father was eating the Jupiter's babies, meaning like other moons and.
Jupiter is his son. And what happened is the mother of Jupiter fed Saturn a rock instead of Jupiter and hid him.
Is this going back to sort of like the Maldek, the asteroid belt and those kinds of things?
And that's why I'm bringing it up to you, because this is the Greek mythology behind it that actually we have to understand, because it's an energetic standpoint for humanity to understand what these energies are and what they represent, how they affect us.
Okay.
And so Jupiter was never supposed to be. And now he becomes greater and bigger, and everybody loves him more than his father, right? Because his dad's like, well, no, this is the rule. You have to follow the rules or you have karma. And this is how much time you have to do it in. And this is the restrictions and the law, that's Saturn. And then Jupiter's like, oh, but we can have a great time. And so Jupiter's like, he teaches us from too much of a good thing is not always a good thing.
Jupiter teaches that, or Saturn?
Jupiter does.
Okay.
Think about and a child. We love candy when we're kids. Now, if Jupiter expands how much candy you're given, and he says, well, here, have 15 bags of candy, eat it all, right? He's expanding on it. It's great. It's beneficial. But then what happens if you don't follow the rules that his father sets in place? You end up with a stomach ache. So you learn a lesson, right? So that's how we learn from Jupiter, like too much and excess is not a good thing.
Right.
And then Saturn always teaches us through the rules and regulation. If you don't follow the rules, then you end up with karma, right? That you have to deal with. Okay. So they're both, every energy has the polarities of teaching.
Sure.
So we have the greatest most beneficial planet and the most restrictive planet, and they're coming together. And where they're headed to, okay, and everyone needs to understand that Saturn is the last planet we can see with our eyes. We can actually look out into the skies and we can see Saturn. Okay, and so that is the boundary line between our dimension and the next planes of existence. Saturn is that boundary line.
And that's
And
because
so
we can see it? Is that because of
yes,
the visual sort of
human
limitation?
consciousness. Yeah.
Okay.
We can actually see it. We can visualize it. We can, humans, it's kind of like faith, right?
Mhm.
We have to kind of go to our inner world to connect with faith.
Yeah.
We can't see faith, right? And so
Right.
Saturn, we can see.
Mm.
So that is literally the boundary line and the rules and regulations and the time, everything. That's the line of the existence to this reality that we live in.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. I'm trying to put
Yeah.
this
No.
kind of
Yeah. This is
convey.
all good stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll jump in with questions if sort of
No, that's good.
where I'm at, but I'm kind of figuring everybody on the call is mostly up to speed with if they've watched the show and in the episodes. But if there is, guys, feel free to raise your hand if there's something that needs to be a little more clarified or get into. But we'll try to stay on topic. Whatever if your questions
Yes.
pertaining to what Beverly's talking about, and then at the end we could probably do more open-ended questions.
Okay, so now when these two joined hands, they became the closest in degree, sitting on top of each other, the opposite polarities of energy, creating perfect balance of energy of creation. Okay, and they are the two biggest planets within our reality. Coming together, they joined hands, and then they went into 0 degrees of Aquarius. 0 degrees is a portal opening. Have the biggest energies of polarity balance coming together and sitting at 0 degrees, opening up this portal into 0 degrees of Aquarius, which is Uranus's house. And Uranus rules the next dimension up.
Now was this
Okay.
this was on that day, on that conjunction
On
day?
that day.
Okay.
Yeah.
This all happened on that day with this the 0 degrees Aquarius.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the portal to ascending into the next plane of existence of dimension that we cannot see opened up in that moment because of the two biggest polarity balanced energies coming together and opening it up from this dimension into the next in Uranus's house, and which is the ruler of Aquarius. And there's a lot of people that probably understand that. Now, the key here is that there's an asteroid named Chiron, and he orbits in between Uranus and Saturn. So he goes from this dimension to this dimension. Okay, Chiron does.
I've heard about the influences of Chiron, but I didn't realize now it makes more sense why that's helping our transition. Okay.
Yes. So Chiron is the wounded healer. If there are people that don't understand that, and he is immortal. Okay, and that's important for us to know as humans because up to this point, we have been born again. Our souls come back. We've had all these lifetimes, all of these things. And Chiron represents our greatest soul wound that we came here in this incarnation to heal. So his symbol is a key. So he is the key to your ascension in this lifetime. Now, in a lot of personal charts, Chiron will create alignments for individual to ascend into the greater realms of existence. But
sorry,
what happened on
could you repeat that just for a second? On my end, you clicked out. Yeah.
Yes. So Chiron's immortal, and that has to do with the humans and how their soul continuously becomes reborn and reborn and reborn. We have all these different lifetimes. And what we're doing here is we're trying to heal those deepest, the singular, deepest soul wound that we have in this incarnation. And he represents, and he's the key in everyone's chart. And so if you want to know, you will look to the key, because that's the key to your ascension and everybody's individual ascension point. Okay. And now, because that portal has been opened, everybody as an individual can now, if they understand what their deepest soul wound is, where Chiron is sitting and what you came here to do to heal, your soul will be able to
Sorry,
ascend
you cut out.
into.
You said Chiron was the key to each person's individual
Deepest soul wound.
deepest soul wound. Okay, and then I kind of missed right after that. You had said something. So
Yes. So if everybody wants to know what they came here, their deepest soul wound is to heal, you have to find the key in your chart, and that's Chiron. And his symbol is the key. So when you actually look it up, it'll show up as a key in the astrology charts. You'll want to understand his energy so you can understand how you can heal your deepest soul wound, what we came here to do. And then ascend
can they join us? Come on now.
into the next plane of existence. But here's the difference this time. It's not going to just be an ascension in the physical or in the spiritual. It will be in the physical this time too, which is why it opened up for all of humanity. The portal from the next dimension, which is the fourth dimensional information highway, is now open. As long as the humans start healing their deepest wounds, they will be able to ascend physically, not just spiritually, while we're still here and gaining the information from the fourth dimension, because the portal is now open. And that will help us start bringing in the higher vibration onto this planet, because not only did the portal open up for humans, it opened up for the earth as well. So we're going to start seeing a lot of, energies that are here that want to be shifted into a higher vibration as the humans start shifting and healing themselves and moving into a higher vibration. The earth is going to as well. So the portal was not just for humans. It's not just for spiritual ascension. It was also for earth ascension, physical ascension, and also spiritual ascension, with great responsibility and understanding.
So Charmaine's asking, what does it mean to ascend physically? Does that mean, but you said, she's saying people dying, but I think you said people not dying.
No.
Yeah.
That means being here and actually shifting in your vibrational frequency within your cells and your body, and actually creating in a reality from a different vibrational frequency and density.
Okay.
Does that make sense, kind of?
Yeah. So so basically we don't have to die in this realm to go to this new form of existence. I think a lot of the terminology that I use in the show is, from third density to fourth density, and or some people say third dimension to fifth dimension, or fourth dimension to fifth dimension, and we get into that. So it's sort of like a different operating system that we can navigate onto without having to throw this realm away and go, physically remove ourselves from this realm and go into another realm.
Yes, exactly. We're here to actually change, transition, and be the bridge to the new while we're still physically here, creating it and maneuvering it and shifting it. And that all has to do, again, with the overlay that the designer has talked about too. So that's a whole different understanding. But I had to go all the way back to explain to everybody that portal that did open, what it meant, and how we can actually start working with this new consciousness. That's why shadow work all of a sudden came into play. Why people are like, oh, we have to heal our shadow work. We have to do this. We have to go. That's why, because the portal opened up, and yes, we're here to heal these deepest wounds that are holding us to this vibrational frequency in this dimension.
And Laura's asking about how do we figure that in our astrology? That's Chiron is in our charts, right? We can find that in
everybody's chart.
Okay.
You will be at a specific house and a specific sign at a certain degree. And you will want to study and research that.
Okay. And then we can, based on our charts and based on which house and what other signs it's correlated with, then that would be sort of the archetype that is that we can look at as our shadow or the work that we need to do here.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I could use my own for example, because I'm doing my Chiron right now.
Okay. Yeah. For example, it's very quick.
So,
is it quick? I don't want to take too much time from the other stuff.
It is a little bit. So in the 8th house, that had to do with the deeper secrets, taboo, occult, all the things people don't like to talk about, right? That are
except
hidden.
For me.
Okay. And
Right.
Gemini in my chart rules that. And Gemini rules communication. And so Chiron is sitting there in my 8th house of Gemini saying, you have to communicate this because you've been killed for talking about these subjects in other lifetimes. And now it's time for you to come out without fear and talk about these deeper things that a lot of people would consider deep and taboo and occult and spiritual and a little bit harder to discuss.
Yeah. That's the theme of our show.
My Chiron.
You're doing your Chiron, and we love it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Cara has her hand up. Go ahead, Cara.
Hello. Can you hear
Hello.
me? Hi. I'm very curious about what you're talking about with like the stars or the planets, I should say. And I'm curious about your take with like if you have multidimensional experiences that where you feel like you end up in space and you see kind of stars, but with your inner eye, like things kind of keep thinning out and thinning out and thinning out, and then it's space. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
I feel that you would.
Do.
Yes.
I do that.
I suspected so. I'm curious because for me, when that happens, it's like stars just whizzing by or I'm whizzing by. Does this relate to that? Is there any kind of intersection here between what you're talking about and those types of experiences?
Those experiences are the deeper meaning of life. And they're actually, I feel like you're being spiritually guided to have those experiences and actually grow to understand how you feel when you're having them. And I think that has to do with your spiritual, deeper knowledge and growth, like as a personal being. And you can share with others as you feel safe to. I mean, some people feel fine sharing, some people don't. So I always say safe to. But yes, those are very personal, deep spiritual experiences that your spirit team and angels and beings and everybody around you is helping you to grow with and through. And the biggest key is to actually ask more questions when it's happening and feel what the answers are, feel what your body is, feel what you're feeling, because I can pretty much almost 100% of the time, we're usually not in fear.
Right. Yeah.
But a whole bunch of other stuff is going on. And so when things are going on, it's really up to us because we're in this like such a dense, solid form that it's up to us to really start integrating what that is in our consciousness that they're showing us. And so start asking more questions when that's going on and develop what they're showing you and what you're being guided to. Those experiences are the most beautiful.
Yeah.
They really are. So
yeah.
Yes, I'd say definitely enjoy that and ask more questions and work with that energy 100%. But as far as like your Chiron, definitely you can pull up an astrology chart and you can put it in your personal natal chart and you'll figure out where your Chiron's located. And you'll want to figure out the two energies involved. And you're going to it might hit you because for me, I've literally died doing this type of work in many lifetimes. I've been told by astrologers long before I came out and started speaking about it, because I had so much fear I wouldn't come out and speak about it.
Mm.
Right. And so it stopped me. And there's still at times like before some of the, if I have to do or calls or things where the anxiety gets so high, because that's a built-in mechanism. Like you're going to die, you're going to die, you're going to die, you're going to die, because you have died. Right. So the fear is actually real, but I have to go past the fear. I have to take in some deep breaths, and I just have to continue moving forward and tell myself, you're not going to die this lifetime doing this. That's why you came here to do it, is to move past that fear and grow in to who you're supposed to be. This is your purpose. And so for me, it's a very big deal. Like I know people, they come out and they do these things sometimes, but there is a lot bigger things going on behind the scenes while I'm doing that stuff. That's very real to me. I've even seek like, shamanic counseling and help to help ease with some of this stuff. Your Chiron wound is a soul wound. So it's very, very deep, whether you physically understand it. Like there for a while, I just like, I don't know why I have so much anxiety. I don't have anxiety. I'm not an anxious person. What is going on with me? Right? It's the inner soul alerting you. And so that's where the shadow work comes in, and the deep wound healing comes in, and moving past the fear and not running from it and doing it and working with it, integrating it. And so that's why I really want to like talk about, and I know like a lot of people probably understand the Great Conjunction and what happened and the planets and these things, but the download that I was given is actually pretty profound, that now the portal is open from the
Will was asking,
density.
is the portal open indefinitely, or is there a time frame for it?
No, and it's going to actually grow, and there's going to be more energy allowed to come through that portal when certain things pass over that same degree, different
Oh,
energies of the planets, asteroids, and obviously the comet that we have now. So, its pathway is probably not going to reach 0 degrees Aquarius. I think it's more in the Gemini Cancer zone where the new comet that just appeared. But the importance of that comet is that it is green and it's defying all of the rules and logistics of what comets are supposed to do. And so it's very important for us, and the color itself. And I can explain and going into why that's important as well.
okay, yeah, let's get into the comet. Does the comet have a name?
Yeah, but I didn't write it down because
Okay,
I try not to like, I like my information to just come from myself. So I don't like to go researching a whole bunch of things,
okay,
and because I don't like pre-programmed stuff. When I get
sure.
downloads, I have to know they're downloads and they're not like somebody else's information, that it's their truth and it may not be the new truth of the reality. So yeah, it's like Z and numbers. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Gotcha. Well, we'll look that up. But it's interesting because recently, I guess Bashar was talking about comets. Melinda, who was on the chat here, she was talking about comets. So I haven't done a ton of research in the comets, so I'm a newbie on that. So let me know what you're coming. Let us know what you're getting downloads about the comets.
So I'm going to backtrack a little bit to the chakras to explain a little bit of the importance of the color that it is. So a download that I had received about the chakra system that's built within the human, energy system is that we have 7, and there's 3 that are warm in color that represent the bottom of the chakra system, and 3 above that are cool in color and represent the top of the chakra system.
So 13.
Well, 7. So 3 on the
7,
bottom and 3 on, yeah.
Oh, I see. Those 3 and those 3. Okay, I thought you were talking about
Yes.
another 3 below the 7 or another 3 above.
No,
Okay.
that's okay. That's
Yeah.
okay.
Gotcha.
And so the 3 are warm in color, and they represent different energies that have to do with our reality and our existence and human evolution, right? The first, the second, and the third, which represent first, second, and third density consciousness of humans.
Right.
And it's all warm in color vibration. Okay. And then we have the 5th, 6th, and 7th, which represents the higher density consciousness that humans can they can work with, but they have to try to work with it, right? It's not something that we have already learned to integrate and do within this density. So we can reach those things and learn to work with those energies. Now, the 4th chakra is the one in the very center, the complete balance of energy, which is what we have to work towards. Reuben, you know this.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
The balance of our reality and balance of energies and the importance of that. And so what that means is that the 3 upper and the 3 lower, well, how do you get the complete balance in the center in the heart chakra? Is it's green in color. You have a cool color tone and a warm color tone coming together, creating balance of 4th density consciousness of humans into the center of the heart, the 4th chakra. Now, don't we find it very interesting how all of a sudden we have a green comet just floating down and showing itself and defying all of the rules and regulations that are part of this dimensional understanding?
Love it. Nice
Like
synchronicity.
I just want to give that to everybody. So
Yeah.
And so actually I would like to ask you a little bit about, because I know you've talked about it, about the balance of energies and what we're doing here, moving from 3rd density consciousness into the 4th density consciousness. Now that we're understanding that we are moving from that 3rd chakra into the 4th chakra density, which is 4th density consciousness of humans.
Yeah, I mean, it's my understanding from all this work and talking to channelers and experiencers is that to move into this newer consciousness, we have to harmonize the polarities, right? We have to equalize or find that neutralized point, upper and lower chakras, yin and yang, all that stuff, right? Right and left. And then finding, and that's why years ago, I got the download of 1 + 1 = 3. And I didn't know this. And I posted this on social media at the time. And my girlfriend at the time, anyways, I got all these messages. Oh, you're having a new baby. Awesome. Wow. And it's got all these congratulations about,
oh, Lord.
And I was like, but that makes sense because you have the mother, the father, and you have the DNA of both lineages, and you harmonize that and you come up with a third outcome. It's not 1 + 1 = 2, mother and father. It's 1 + 1 = child that has all the elements of both mother and father, and yet is still its own unique being. So that's the perfect equation for 1 + 1 = 3. So, so I use that as also part of the symbology for talking about ascension and harmonizing these polarities.
Yes, exactly. And so when we get off balance, it means we're paying attention too much to one polarity or the other, which means we're either trying to escape this existence, not be here, or we're too involved with surviving or having an ego here in this existence.
Oh.
And so the human density consciousness from where we have evolved, and thank you to our beings that came down here to enslave us, that gave us that consciousness, right, of survival and ego. We have to survive our existence, which is a lie. And now a lot of those lies are going to come to fruition. And we're going to have to figure out what the truth is at this point. And what that means is we actually have to feel. We can't be told anymore because we've been told how we feel. We've been told what we think. We've been told what the facts are. And now we're finding out that those aren't the facts. That isn't really how I feel. That isn't who I am. That isn't, everything we've been told. And we don't know. We don't know how we feel.
Yeah, I guess what I felt when COVID happened and we're getting all these different stories and this and, political goofiness and all that stuff. I felt that was the perfect training room, the training exercise. Now we still got our training wheels on. We're still trying to figure things out, navigate, and what are these narratives and how come this person's this and that? And it just was nice to slowly take the wheels off and just know that, okay, this is my trajectory. This is what I'm feeling. And I felt, COVID was like the great experiment,
Awakener.
and in a gentle way too, because we could still keep our old ways of doing things and not have crazy ramifications. We are now entering into the zone, I think, where we really have to walk our talk. We can't be wishy-washy with who we are. Like, we have to own it, right, in a sense.
Yeah, we have to know what we're owning, and we have to feel it as a single person first. Which means, like, I can't go ask my friend, what do you think? And then accept their response as my response.
Right.
I actually have to go inward and feel what I feel. And that's a really big thing for people, because we're so programmed into acceptance from others.
Yep.
That we're trained not to feel our own feelings and understand our own truths and get our own information and downloads and empowerment. And so that's really what we're moving into. And the ecliptic nodes of fate, are shifting this summer into Aries and Libra. Aries rules self. And that's the direction we're supposed to be going. And so we have to take action as ourselves and then bring it out into humanity for justice, which Libra is the scales of system, the justice system. And Aries also rules war. So war and justice is going to be a theme for the next year and a half, starting this summer. And, that was another question I wanted to bring up during this call, because I know a lot of people are concerned about war, obviously, and what's going on and what's going to happen. And, there's a lot of things I could talk about first, but I guess we can say this. I really feel and have been shown a downloaded message that the war is going to be about the war of energy.
Okay.
Because
like actual energy for like natural gas, coal, those types of energies, right?
Energies of existence of things that we have created. So yes, those things are things that we have created.
Right. Okay.
But so is money, and so are politics, and so are government systems, and so are countries, and so are leaders, and so are our food systems, and so are how we raise our children and how we put them through school. So this is going to literally be the war over energy, which means what energy is going to get transmuted into this fourth density consciousness that I'm talking about, because this portal opened and people are going to be healing their deepest soul wounds. Now, once that's healed and you're still in the physical body and you have access to the fourth density consciousness, which is information, all information, that means you have to learn to accept all information for what it is, because it is only creation at its finest point. The fourth density consciousness is accepting creation for what it is, which is love. And when we love something, we're not romantically in love. Of course, that's pieces of it, but love is acceptance of all things. Can you accept the polarities, the existence of all things, because you can't have one without the other, and truly understanding that and not trying to survive something or overpower something? That's a third density consciousness way of thinking. And so once we heal this deepest wound, we have access to this fourth density consciousness, which means acceptance of all things and being able to sit in that space with all those things without the polarities drawing your emotional state up or down. You love it, which means you accept everything for what it is. And you learn to work within that space, which means that we won't be creating from a density of trying to survive anymore. We won't be creating from trying to overpower this or take control over that or out of fear, because that's a third density consciousness. And when we start creating, we're actually transmuting what's already here into a different density and vibration. Because we're not going to just leave this planet and then be on another density, you know?
I'm sorry, I'm just reading Mark's comment.
Yeah,
She
no,
doesn't accept
that's fine.
even though I'm the session. Yes. Thanks, Mark.
And so that's what we're looking at. We're looking at the war of energy.
Yeah.
What is going to stay to hold the polarity balance that we can accept? And what are we going to transmute into a different consciousness of vibration that works better for the people that are shifting and choosing to shift into a higher vibration? This all goes back to the overlay of they want to overlay this entire planet that's been already created in a higher vibration onto this plane of existence, and we can all live simultaneously together. And that's the war we're about to go into, is what is going to stay here and what's going to be torn down and recreated into something else on all levels, on all forms, and who is going to do it, right? Because we have to start from the individual and then come together as a collective.
Yep, leaving Tony Blair behind. Yep, that is. I think most of the world can pick up that one.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, it's not like we're going to just, wake up and, oh, wow, a solar flare hit and now we're in a different density. No, we're actually here, you guys, and to create the new vibrational existence, frequency, and density in the physical. And that's why that portal happened in the physical, from the higher density consciousness for all of humans, for the planet. So the planet can have its shifts too. It's going to have its reactions from what we've done and also what it's shifting into, the poles shifting, its placement shifting. Things that are hidden that need to be uncovered, that the earth's been keeping secret,
Mm-hmm.
The earth is an energy too. And people forget that.
So like Antarctica stuff.
There's a lot.
Yeah. We'll get some Antarctica stuff in there, hopefully.
Yeah.
So yes, that all makes sense. And that's kind of the way I've always saw it, is I didn't see any kind of big magical flash happening that everything's magically better the next day, or worse. There's a ton of ideas of big flashes happening and everything is destroyed, and we're kind of back to the square roots of working with electricity and having to rebuild civilization, and that's definitely a scenario as well. But yeah, I've always sort of been more in the camp of a slow transition. Slow is relative to
Right.
everybody, but yeah, like Mark just said, all flowers don't bloom at the same time. So we're having to tear down some of the old structures, build new ones. But ultimately, like you've said, I've see a very different world being created than our current financial, political, even cultural to a certain extent. All that's going to be shifting quite rapidly here.
Yeah. I mean, we can't expect all of us to ascend, into a higher vibration and then nothing around us actually shift into a higher vibration as well. And so otherwise we couldn't exist here only in third density consciousness. I mean, it wouldn't be a vibrational match. And so what's happening is we're going to have to learn our stuff. And then we're going to have to start tearing down things that we've made from the old density consciousness and recreating it. And it's like you said, starting maybe in the more organic sense, because some of the everything that's here right now has been built off of a third density vibration.
Yeah.
Everything. So what we're looking at is, what does that look like? And we can't create a higher vibrational way of living without sometimes going backwards a little bit to find the pieces that actually work vibrationally and then creating off of some of that moving forward. And so, yeah, backtracking looks like it's a definite potential possibility.
Chickens,
Yeah.
raising chickens.
Chickens. And don't buy Purina chicken food.
Yeah, don't buy any Nestle tractor
Your-
farm or whatever. Yeah,
Hens won't lay
organic.
eggs.
Exactly. So,
So-
but yeah, for example, right, the chicken thing is this idea of going back to the way we used to do things in a way of, raising chickens locally, to then move forward with a new system of, where more localized ways of doing things.
Yeah, and honestly, we can't really get the full grasp of what a fourth density consciousness within a third density polarity, holding the balance there, so we can both live simultaneously physically here still, without like dying and then moving into a fourth density consciousness. We're actually integrating it in the physical, and that's
Right.
what's so important to understand. And I guess a little bit of how to understand this is like when you go back into the past and you look at some of the things that are still here that are from the way past, okay? Like Cracker Jack, right?
Cracker Jacks?
1896.
Are they still around? Cracker Jacks are still around?
Right, you
Oh,
can
shit.
buy them. So
No way. But it's not the same Cracker Jacks as it used to be. That's for sure.
probably not. But
It's
you
not.
see how
High fructose
that's
corn syrup,
something, right?
all that other stuff. Yeah.
But that's something from the
Preservatives.
past that
Yeah.
still exists here within us. But that doesn't mean the higher density beings are going to be like, oh, yeah, we eat Cracker Jack every day. No, we know it exists. We
Right.
accept it. Some of us have enjoyed it at times in our life,
Yeah.
right?
I'm sure it still
But that
tastes good.
doesn't mean that we choose that now. But it can
Mhm.
still exist with us and we can still accept it. And that's what we're looking at moving forward is there's going to be things that have to still stay here of the old polarity that we're
Mhm.
going to learn how to accept and exist within. But we don't
Mhm.
have to necessarily partake in it and choose it. But it's just
Right.
holding the polarity. We accept it for what it is,
Sure.
Well,
that's happening
that's
now.
kind of what I want to explain to people. Yes.
Yeah, that's definitely happening now. But I guess from what you're saying, it's going to be more of that. We're going to go deeper into integrating the new ways and letting go of the old ways, and I'm sure that process will probably speed up as we
Yes.
move.
Yeah. And to backtrack it just a touch,
Mhm,
my
mhm.
big question to the whole world is we're so hell bent on draining the swamp,
Mhm.
finding out the truth, tracing and tracking down the truth and finding the hidden documents, uncovering and disclosing and all of these things, right? We're
Mhm.
doing that right now. We're in that energy. But what no one's thinking about is once it's all done and the truth is all exposed, now what do we do? Once we've tore it all down, once we know all the truths, now where do we go from there? And that's what I want to bring to everybody's awareness is we're going to reach that point.
Oh yeah. Let's see. What happens to the polarity when we shift? That's a question from Rosemary.
The polarity, like
Does the
within
polarity
the
go?
reality.
Yeah. Does it go away, or how does polarity look in this new reality?
So it starts with our emotional understanding of energy.
Mhm.
Okay. And our emotions are what we use to create within this reality in the physical. It's what sparks us, what gives us joy. So it's our emotional state is what and how we create within this reality. And
Mhm.
when we're in the third density consciousness, we create from heightened emotions of fear and survival. Okay. You're either fearing something, you're trying to survive it, or your ego's involved, right? That's third density consciousness. And these are the emotions attached to what you're creating, right? My
Mhm.
ego says, oh, I need to create this because it's going to make me look this way, right?
Right.
Or I have to go to work the next 2 weeks so I can pay this bill because I'm afraid if I
Yeah.
don't pay this bill, then I'm not going to have this, right?
Right.
So that's what we're operating on as these emotions.
Yeah.
When we move into a fourth density consciousness where we no longer are in fear and struggling and ego and, all of those types of energies of emotion, now we're moving into love. And that's why I bring in that love is actually acceptance of
Mhm.
all of the energy,
Mhm.
which means, okay, your bill comes. And so you're not in fear. You just know the bill is there. You accept that the bill is there and you know what you have to do to fulfill that. It's different.
Right.
You know what
It's
I'm
not,
saying?
you take the fear molecule out of it and you just
Yes. Yes.
focus on just completing the task without some sort of crazy emotional attachment.
Yes.
Hmm.
So creating in a more neutral standpoint of energetic polarity
Hmm.
balance, which means we're not trying to escape here. We're not trying to just, God, come down here and, I'm trying to survive. And you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
we understand that God exists. We understand that these other energies exist. And now we're just going to accept. And then we're going to create from the acceptance standpoint without the emotional polarity swings, which have been programmed here, Reuben,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
as you well know,
Oh yeah.
for energetic feeding.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I've noticed that. I mean, more, from way back, but especially more and more whenever say we're interacting, let's just say in business deals. So you're in a business deal and you've got someone that's a little hot headed and trying to say things that maybe necessarily are true. I've noticed by engaging and trying to fix the problem, oftentimes it just perpetuates and makes things worse. When you don't engage and you just kind of let things settle for a minute, and then you come at it with a more loving response and like, okay, I accept your perspective on that. How do we move forward? Perhaps with some other different ideas and stuff like that. So instead of that
Right.
knee jerk reaction, which we're so programmed to do, because that's like you said,
Yeah.
that's what feeds the machine, the monster, is
Yes.
this constant knee jerk reaction to things having to be this way, right, or a certain uh, package or whatever. So yeah, I've definitely been noticing that lately.
Which generally means you'd be sitting there with that person and you'd understand, oh, they're behaving that way because they're in fear,
Yeah, and then you
you
can
know?
and then when you understand that, then you can approach that person from a different angle, and hopefully neutralize
Neutralize.
the energy that's coming at you directly. So
Yes.
I'm looking for this whole new reality because no offense to lawyers, but I just know just know we're gonna have a lot less lawyers in this new
Yeah.
reality. And
Yeah.
I'm so excited for that because lawyers are good people, they're talented, they're smart, and they could be putting that energy into, making free energy devices
A
or
whole
something.
bunch of different things, right? And a different density of consciousness using
Right,
that
right.
and projecting that energy to actually benefit the neutrality of our dimension.
Yeah, I think
But
all of
yes.
us will be becoming our own lawyers in a sense. We'll be able to
Yes. Yes.
negotiate our own deals. We'll be able to, see the bigger picture and not have to rely on silly, word games or contracts or these, that kind of stuff. There'll be contracts, but more energetic contracts.
Yes. And the more we create within that energy, the
Mhm.
more the energy here in this reality is going to shift. And it's more into this will make you so happy. But it'll be more about the free energy and moving
Mhm.
into these different ways of living to where everybody has things that they need without worry, without fear, without struggle. We're not being fed upon. And the people that continue living within that realm of existence, they chose to do that and bless their hearts and thank them. And I praise them every day for doing that. So I didn't have to. Um,
Yep.
Seriously,
Yeah.
that's a big deal. I do not dislike the people that want to hold that vibration. I praise them that I did
Yeah.
not have to, you know,
Yeah.
because
Somebody's got to do it, right? I
yeah,
guess.
Yes.
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 I prefer not to, but that's the reality of the
But now we
situation.
can see it,
So
So
there's a couple other questions I wanted to hop into. So Charmaine
yeah.
was asking about the shadow. Once let me see. I guess she's thinking that we'll move into dealing with these shadow issues a little bit more gracefully as the energy amplifies, as we start creating from this new energy. Then it's just going to get more and more graceful as we go. Like shadow's not going to disappear overnight as we drain the swamp.
No,
She
it's
says
something that,
as
yes,
yeah, it'll be
came here in the physical to help transmute third density energy and consciousness within the human soul and body and density in the physical reality and the earth plane existence into this higher dimension while still be embodied in our body.
right. So
And those are growing pains.
yeah. I sort of thinking about little things in my life, transitions from leaving Hollywood, from producing content like this, from not engaging in violent movies. And I used to be, an action director, and that violence was my living. That's how I survived, was by creating violence.
Can we talk just a touch about that?
Sure,
Can I segue just a little bit?
Well, no,
Okay,
because
'cause
I
I'm
think
curious.
that was my example, was making the conscious choice in what I consume as content. I can't watch action movies anymore. I have not seen, I think I watched half of John Wick and then I got bored. It's that kind of stuff. But you had a question, go ahead.
I did. So we had talked before you watched Avatar 2.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Huge part of your transition.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And everything we're talking about right now, everybody, if no one knows what Reuben has done in his life, I want to start by asking you, did you always know you wanted to be a stuntman?
No. I mean, well, I started young, but I didn't. It wasn't something that I came into my world until I was like 19 years old.
How did that come into your world?
Big fan of Jackie Chan and Hong Kong cinema. And when I moved to Japan, I was always sort of like the, video game nerd. I was very non-athletic and didn't do anything. But when I moved to Japan out of survival, I got into modeling and doing commercial work and that kind of thing. So now all of a sudden I'm in this position where I have to be concerned about how I look. Up until that time, I didn't care. I ate hamburgers. I didn't. I didn't. There was no like. But then I was like I was starting to work out and try to build muscles, and all that stuff. Which there's
Why
good
did
things,
you move to Japan?
just out of curiosity.
So where did you live before you went to Japan?
In Atlanta, Georgia.
So you went from Atlanta, Georgia. You just decide one day you're going to move to Japan.
Well, it wasn't just one day. That was like from junior high school up until I had the means to move to Japan. So it was a very somewhat calculated journey, but saving money and stuff.
You knew where you were going to live?
No, I didn't. That part I didn't know.
No,
I stayed at the airport the first 2 nights that I was there because I didn't.
Gosh, okay.
I didn't know it was that. So but there's a whole, I ended up getting into modeling out of survival, and that was sort of when I realized I was always a fan of Jackie Chan and Hong Kong cinema, and Japanese, like superhero stuff, Power Rangers and that kind of thing. So when I got to Japan and I realized, oh wow, I'm unique here, right? I'm this white guy in this foreign country. And I could make money by doing it. So that was like, okay, it wasn't my highest excitement, But what I found was super exciting was training and learning these new skills and becoming this sort of action guy, right? So that's what
So
propelled
did you
me.
just join like a local gym, or what does that look like?
Yeah. Joined the local gym. And then at that gym, I was asking the instructor, Ebina-san, my good friend Ebina, to, how to, if there's any gymnastic classes that I could take locally. Laura's seen my commercial reel. Okay. Um, so then he's like, oh, why do you want to learn gymnastics? Because I went to various gymnastic schools and they all told me I was too old to learn gymnastics. They're like, oh, you're 19, we can't teach a 19-year-old,
Yeah.
you have to be young. And I was like, no, I need to do a backflip, I can become like Jackie Chan. And then my friend Evina, who's a trainer at the weight gym, the local city where I was living at the time, he brought me into what's called action schools. And it's very unique to Japan. It's like a stunt school where they teach you the unique skills to do on camera fighting, like the Hong Kong
Wow.
style stuff. So at that time, that didn't exist in America. I mean, it existed very rudimentally in America. And so I was one of the first, if not the first, foreigner to start training at these various action schools in Japan, which very quickly got my skills so I could do backflips and front flips and twists and all the fun stuff, samurai action, and I just trained really diligently and hard for several years to prepare myself to, once I got on Avatar, it was an easy gig, so to say, because I had already
So
been
you
through all
go from
those.
these gyms into this training, and you do this training for lengthy amount of time. And then did you know how to speak the language?
That was in
I mean, you go from Atlanta, Georgia. You
yeah.
don't even have a drawl. You don't have a Southern drawl. I'm like,
I lost it in Japan. I picked up a Japanese accent.
okay.
Yeah.
So did you know Japanese?
I learned it when I was there. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. This is amazing. Like this journey that you're telling
But
me
this is your
about.
interview, not mine. I've
Yeah,
talked about
this
this already.
is great. No,
Okay.
this is great. Okay. And so you go in and you learn all of this stuff. And then how does it segue into now I'm a stuntman? Like,
Right. Well, I mean, that was sort of the goal. I was training to be this on camera. I was so fascinated with the art of action cinema that, I was drawn to seek the best of the best. And at that time, Jackie Chan, Jet Li, Hong Kong cinema, in my opinion, was the best. They created the best action cinema or action scenes in film. And it wasn't until really 1997, The Matrix, which the Wachowski brothers had, now sisters, had brought Yu Ping, who was a very prominent action director at the time in Hong Kong, brought him in because they also recognized the art of action cinema, and they brought him in to do the action design for the Matrix films.
wow.
So then the Hong Kong boom started in Hollywood. So you had movies like Charlie's
So you
Angels.
move.
So I moved, from after the boom in 97, I was working in and out of Hong Kong. I was going from Japan to Hong Kong up until 2000, seeing if there was still some work I could get. And I kept working and training. And then finally I was like, okay, I think I've maximized my potential in Asia. So I moved back to the States. And as soon as I moved back, 1999, 2000, I started working on Power Rangers, the American version of Power Rangers.
Wow.
Yeah. And
Wow.
Charlie's Angels. I worked on Charlie's Angels as well. And some other, those shows that incorporated Hong Kong.
Was that your first big American, like gig here in the States?
Yeah.
People would really recognize would be Power Rangers. Now, was there a difference from production and how things operated from Hong Kong and Japan over into the States? Do they operate differently on scene?
Oh, yeah.
Or on set?
Craft service in America is way better. The craft service table is
Okay.
like, it's 10 times bigger and better than in Asia. Um, and yeah, there's definitely, the budgets are bigger in the States. So we got paid more, unions. Yeah, it was way better in the States as far as working conditions. But, there was a lot of skills that, having worked in Asia and being on set in that country, prepared me. So when I got to America, it was very easy. It was very, I was very appreciative of everything that was being given to me, because I had seen rougher and harder conditions. I had American friends that were complaining, and I'm like, dude, you have no idea how good it is. Like, this is amazing.
Right.
So that was that. And then working within that world, still going back and forth to Asia a lot, because then I had a production company and working on video games. And then eventually, because of that video game and Asian experience, when I got called to work on Avatar, it was a very easy transition in that sense, because I had all these skills and I had experience, and
Okay.
that technology at that time, very few people had exposure to working within that technology. So, um, when I got on set, it wasn't intimidating or anything. I just basically flowed with it. And James Cameron is also very known for being very intense on set. And to me, he was just like Jackie Chan or some Hong Kong guy. Like, to me, that wasn't intense at all. I was like, this guy, he speaks my language. And
Yeah.
so I didn't
He
get
tells you
into,
what he wants.
yeah, he does what he wants, and he
Yeah.
may yell it out a little bit, but whatever.
Yeah.
Where in a lot of the American stunt people that were coming through, and actors, got scared, intimidated. They'd freeze. They
Oh,
wouldn't know how to react when someone is yelling at them in those ways. And it's
very
not
direct.
being
Yeah.
very direct. And no excuse for somebody who doesn't need to yell to get their point across, but that's sort of a normal way of operating in the Asian cinema world. When you have, even though Jackie Chan is very nice on his films and smiles a lot, he behind the scenes, he's a very serious guy. And
Yeah.
he has a very clear direction or image of what he wants to create. So, there's high expectations for his team, for his people that are working with him. And there's a very strict level of professionalism and output. If you don't deliver, you're gone.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that was sort of James Cameron's MO, and I was able to flow into that really easily. And
So I do have a question. You said Avatar called you.
yeah, or a friend had recommended me, and sort of said that I was
Interesting.
a good candidate for the types of things they were looking for.
Wow.
Yep.
So what did that feel like for you to be called in on a project like that? And what were your initial thoughts? Like, did you even think it was going to be a big deal at the time?
Oh, I knew it was
Because
a
you
big
never
deal.
know it.
I
You
knew it was a
do?
big deal. Yeah. It was, and
Okay.
something. So initially I had, hopefully, these guys, our audience we'll spend a little extra time. I don't want to take
Well,
too much time, but
yes. No,
but I'm
it's just
sure,
like, but
this
this is
connects
very
something.
interesting.
Okay.
Yes.
It'll connect somewhere. I know it will. Do you remember the James Cameron produced film that Rodriguez created called Battle Angel, Alita,
No.
a couple years ago?
Okay, I've heard of it, but I did not
Yeah.
watch it.
I still haven't watched it either, which is ridiculous because I have sitting behind me, not anymore, but I used to have the whole comic set of Battle Angel, which is originally, it was a Japanese comic book that I had
Oh, wow.
in the 1990s. I knew that James Cameron had bought the rights and he was going to do a movie on it.
Oh,
So I was already tuned into the James Cameron energy. I was watching every move this guy was making because I was a big fan of this title, this IP, Battle Angel. And then because of my work in the video game world and motion capture, word had gotten around that James Cameron is doing development for that movie. and he's looking for motion capture studios. And I actually got called into one of the studios that I'd worked with to put together a test for John Landau and James Cameron and his team. And so that was early on in like 2000, I want to say 3 or 4. And then like a year went by, and then we got a call from a friend who said he's doing testing for this new James Cameron film. I was like, oh, Battle Angel, this is awesome. And he goes, no, it's called Avatar. And I'm like, Avatar? And I didn't know what was going on. And then I got called to the set to do like a test thing. And then that's when I realized, oh, this is a very different film. And he had changed. He was going to do Battle Angel first. And at the last minute, he was like, no, the Avatar, we're going to do Avatar because it's the technology. He wanted to wait a little bit longer for it to develop for Battle Angel. So yeah, that's sort of, anyway. So yes, I had this since the 90s. James Cameron was in, he even made a TV show called Battle Angel that wasn't so great, but he produced it. I think he may have directed one of the episodes in the 90s. And I had been watching that progress and sort of like making that connection. So eventually, when I got on Avatar, I was like, oh, this is very different than what I had imagined, but okay, this is cool. Let's go with this, you know. And then later he made Battle Angel anyway. So yeah.
So was the set of Avatar and the sense that you were doing with the technology definitely changed, like what you were working with as a stunt man?
Not really. I mean, it was better technology and more some advanced little tweaks here and there, and he was pioneering a lot of new things for that industry. But essentially, compared to what I was doing in the video games, it was the exact same thing.
Yes. The stunt double for Jake Sully and Avatar. That is who you were.
That's mainly who I did.
Yes.
One of many. I was a lot of the Na'vi, background Na'vi and stuff. But sort of as we were doing these tests for a couple of months, this was before they greenlit the movie. Finally, they said, okay, we're going to greenlight the movie. And Reuben, your official role is going to be the main stunt double for Sam Worthington, you know, Jake Sully, that character. Like we want, which was interesting because they liked how my stunts were kind of sloppy. So I was actually a bad stuntman, which worked well for the film,
character development,
because they wanted this guy who's learning this way of the Na'vi to not be so polished and
smooth.
The guy,
right? And he's a paraplegic.
He's paraplegic in his real life, but in his avatar life, he's having to learn how to walk again. He's having to learn how to use his avatar body. So I had, there's another guy, Ilram, who actually brought me in. He's a Korean, just ninja. We call him Ninja. So he became Jake Sully's stunt double at the last scene after Jake became the Terra Makdu, you know, when he rode the dragon and received that title. Then it was like, okay, now Jake Sully's this badass. So then they're like, okay, Reuben, you can step aside now. We're going to let Ilram take over from here. And so all the falling off the horses and him figuring out how to ride the thing and
oh my gosh,
all of that development. I was the dead body whenever Jake Sully moved, you know, whenever he left, and then Natiri's having to drag this body across the stage. I learned how to wiggle my body like a snake and make it light. So she could,
wow.
All that goofiness. Yeah. I didn't get to do the kiss scene though. That unfortunately that was all Sam.
Of course, right?
Yeah. But all the other hardcore action.
So falling off of a horse, or it's not a horse essentially, but
it was a horse on the stage. It was a real horse.
On stage, it was a real horse that you were falling off of.
Yeah,
so they could recreate it.
Yeah, I fell off the horse. Probably, I did 2 or 3 days of horse falls. And
2 or 3 days. Do you know, like, person can't fall off the horse once without getting injured.
Yeah. I have a knack for doing things and not getting hurt. Seriously, I mean, I came home with bruises for sure,
Yeah, yeah.
but yeah, that was part of why I got the job, because I was very good at looking like things hurt really bad or I broke something, but actually I didn't.
Wow. So have you ever broke something on set doing stunt work?
Uh, I just tore my MCL on Avatar. But I've never I've like dislocated my shoulder. I've broken a collarbone on a motorcycle preparation, like not an actual stunt, but practicing for a stunt. But most of my other injuries are, other breaks. I've had many breaks, have come from practicing or just goofing off or, not on set.
I see. So a quick question.
Yeah.
Did you see Tom Cruise's newest stunt that he just did, now
Yes, I
that we're
did.
talking about stunt work? Oh my gosh. And he did it how many times?
I don't know. He
Going
did a
off
few.
that
Yeah.
ledge on a
Yeah.
motorcycle, right? Oh my
Yeah.
Lord. I'm watching that, I'm like, this guy has zero fear.
Yeah. Tom is great. I have some of my friends, do the fight choreography and help Tom train him and stuff. So,
Lots of training.
yeah, they all say that he's a trooper. He's like super dedicated and just is focused. And when he trains, he's hardcore and really is a perfectionist when it comes to doing the stunts and doing all that stuff. Like he's really about wanting to do as much as he can himself, which is
So
good. That's kind of a Jackie Chan type mentality, which is awesome.
you and that energy kind of share a little bit about that, being very dedicated and serious
Sure.
about the work and that type of stuff. And so that's a little bit why I brought that up. But
Okay.
and also that it's fascinating. I'm not saying that Tom Cruise is like this great person or anything like that. I'm just saying I just recently saw that stunt work that he did, and it reminded some things. And so that's fascinating in itself. And so what I do want to kind of go back a little bit. So you're like this young kid from Atlanta, Georgia, moving to Japan, going through modeling, which is kind of like, it makes me giggle thinking of Reuben modeling. But it makes
me
sense.
giggle too.
Okay. It totally makes sense in Japan.
Yeah, in Japan.
I remember
exactly.
I remember when they did the movie The Grudge with Sarah Michelle Gellar, and how she had the film over in Japan, and she was like the tallest white woman in there, and how everybody was in shock and awe over that. And so, all these years I used to think, gosh, that's so odd that they were like that. And then here we are talking about how here you moved there and you're this like, white kid from Atlanta and you need to survive. So you go into modeling, and it makes sense. It really does, because it's something that they really want to see over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's fascinating. So here you are, you do all this, you get dedicated, you go to the gym, you're learning the stunt work, you're working the jobs there, you're very much into your work. And then you come back here and you're landing jobs here and you're doing all of this, you're living your life, you're doing the video gaming, all of this stuff, right?
Yep.
That you've created. And it's stuff that really was a part of you from a young age, it sounds like, a lot of these things. And so what I want to bring into the importance of this is now all of a sudden you hit this wall all of a sudden. Where did this wall show up that made you realize that more to life than what your dreams were? Because you were living your dream.
Right. Yeah. Well, that was while I was working on Avatar, actually, it's my intro on season 1 for the show. While working on Avatar, it wasn't on set. It was the day I had off. I forget the exact day. I said 2007. I think I say the exact day in my opening intro. And so I told the story in other interviews, but I'll tell it again here. So while we're on Avatar, which I ended up working on it for little over 4 years.
Wow.
It kept dragging, they were like, okay, it's going to be, 9 months shoot, and then we're done. Okay. Then 12 months. And then, okay, we're going to go bring you back and do this. And It just kept expanding and expanding. So, but one of the reasons why it took so long was the technology being developed with the motion capture stuff that Cameron wanted to use. He was still developing a lot of back end stuff for that. So we'd go on set, we'd do a couple things, and then the whole system would crash. And then they're like, okay, actors to your rooms. We're gonna figure it out, and they got to figure out how to fix the computer. So while that was happening, us actors and performers, which depending on the day, most of the time it's only a handful of us. There was only like 5 or 6 people on set every day. And because I was like a jack of all trades, so I was being Navi, I was Jake Sully's double, I was, whatever they needed, so very versatile in that. So there was 3 main stunt people, myself, Alicia, who was Naturi's double, and Ilram. So we were on set. The 3 of us were on set every day. And then depending on what day, we'd have Zoe or Sam, or Zoe and Sam, or Sigourney Weaver, or we'd have, different actors who would come in depending on their parts, doing different things. And some days we'd have even more people. It'd be big days where we'd have, 100 people.
Battle scenes.
Yeah, big.
Yeah.
Well, the battle scenes actually were just the 3 of us because they could repopulate the whole thing.
No kidding.
Yeah, that's why I fell off the horse for 3 days. I did every which way you could fall off the horse. They used those phones in the battle scenes. They put all that. So whenever you see an explosion and the horse is doing that, or that's me and over this way. So we did a lot of that. But during the downtime, we'd go in and YouTube was just coming online. So this was in the beginning years of YouTube. And we started watching, I make this joke, after we watched all the cat videos at the time, probably watched every single cat video that came out. Then I started watching things like Dr. Stephen Greer's Disclosure Project, which happened in 2001, but never made it out publicly until we finally got YouTube coming out. And then films like The Zeitgeist, which was a trilogy. I think the first Zeitgeist film came out, and I don't know if you've heard of those films, but
I've heard, but I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, they go into it. Sort of starts off with religion and archetypes, and then it goes into how the Jesus story may have been manipulated and possibly hijacked in some ways, and sort of giving this different perspective on reality. Like, oh wow, there's something different here. Simultaneously, a film called Loose Change came out, that was also free in the internet, and talks about putting toxins in the water and 9/11 and controlled demolition and these kinds of things that you're just like, whoa, big paradigm shifters that you're like, what? There's no way our government could do that. And simultaneously, I'm learning part of my homework for getting into these characters is I had to learn the ways of these indigenous. So the Na'vi were based off of all indigenous cultures from around the world. And on set, we'd have the whole set would be plastered and papered with pictures and drawings of jewelry of different native cultures from Africa, South America, North America, Asia. So we had all of these indigenous cultural studies that we had to do. And then I had to learn how to, Cameron would design a knife and he would design it a certain way. And he's like, okay, if you were an indigenous and you had to skin or kill a fish and gut it and open it up with this specific design, like what movements would you evolve to? So I was then, researching, Native American ways of doing, cutting a fish and hanging it and these kinds of things. And then looking at how I could adapt some of those things into this alien body, with the Na'vi being taller and having longer limbs, and how does that work? So part of my study was to look into indigenous cultures. And when I started researching that all these indigenous cultures from around the world, I started noticing these similarities. And I was like, wow, okay, they often, even in belief systems, they're believing a lot of similar things, even though they're spread out around the world. The whole pyramid idea of, we're seeing pyramids. So that was coming into my awareness at that time, that I was listening to films like Zeitgeist and Loose Change. And then in 2007, I had a sighting. I was at home doing laundry and it was just a day off, and I was this what I call fleet showed up in the sky, and I'm like, holy shit, it's real. It's real.
So just one or more?
No, like about, I don't know, 30, 40 maybe. And
what shape were they?
They were just little white dots, little specks, like the stars in the back.
Wow.
There. So, but up until that time, I had never done any psychedelic drugs. I had never even been drunk. So I knew I was not hallucinating. And I was like, okay, these ETs are real. What the hell? And then that got me on the path of researching and trying to find out what I experienced. And then that led me to, actually going to one of Greer's CE5 events in 2010, producing that was the catalyst, was me seeing those things, knowing, and then realizing that there's more to this world than what we've been told, what our society tells us. So that was the
wow
trigger that got me going, all these years I've been on
in a different direction, and away from what you would have considered from your original incarnation as living your dream. Now you're open this other door of, whoa, what is behind here? And I need to know more. And growing that enthusiasm and that drive to find out more. And knowing and finding a dream that maybe you didn't know about.
Yeah. I mean, that became my new passion and obsession, was to figure out what I saw and to validate.
So how did you start that process? Like, you see this stuff, and I mean, were you in shock? I mean, did you stare at it? Did you?
Yeah. I stared at it for 45 minutes before they all went away. And they slowly disappeared.
Just dissipated, or just
one by one, they started to go away. Boom, boom, and the sky became blue again.
And then you were just like, oh snap, right?
Yeah, pretty much. So I was like, okay.
And you're like, did that just happen?
Exactly. Well, I was just convinced. I was convinced that the whole world was going to be changed the next day. I was convinced that it was going to be all over the news, that everybody saw it, that we were, the whole world was now this new paradigm of ETs are real. And then when there was no news about it, when there was no reporting and there was no other videos or anything, I was just like, what the hell? Why? And then when I started looking on the internet for things, I found similar phenomenon, like in Mexico and other places, and videos. And then I was like, okay, it's not a one-off thing. This has been going on for a long time, and it's also been shunned and shamed for a very long time. And okay, so then I really started diving. That's when I started diving deep into the research.
So did you reach out to people at that point and start making connections and start asking people more questions, or driving places?
Yep. Oh yeah.
Kind of what it all.
Yeah. I did it privately until 2010, when I went to Greer's event. And then I was like, okay, this I was around enough people that were also having similar experiences. We all collectively had the experiences doing the CE5 for 3 nights in a row. And then that was when I was like, okay, I can't contain this anymore just amongst friends. I have to go full in on this. Oh yes, Sigourney Weaver is she's a very cool person. I haven't talked for years, but yes, she was on set. Very cool.
Which is interesting because she was in the movie Alien.
Right. Yeah, I know. Also directed by James Cameron.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting? All these connections, it's fascinating. So I guess the most important thing to really move forward towards is, all of a sudden you've taken a whole different path from that point.
Right.
And you did some things, I would say, probably within the last couple of years that really were energetically aligned with closing the door
Mhm.
to what you thought was your dream.
Right. Yes, that was
Um,
hard.
yes. Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. And
Yeah.
one of those things like selling your stunt equipment. Like,
Yeah.
I am officially done with this part of my life.
Mhm.
And now this is my life, this new dream, this new thing you're creating and chasing every day.
Mhm.
And what did that feel like? Like your heart had to be split into two, or like you've learned a lot from this and you can take some of that into this with you, but this is no longer who you are. I mean, what was that feeling?
I'd say probably the biggest fear was, um, am I gonna be able to sustain myself? Because when you're doing something for so long and that's how you make your living, yeah, that was my financial stability, was doing stunts. So even after Avatar and I started my show, I still was focusing more on my show and other things, but I had been established in that community, right? So people knew, oh, Reuben, we can get this performance. We can, this is what we want. He's a great action coordinator. He can design really interesting fight sequences. So I had that resume and people knew me for that. So I got called for those jobs and it was easy money. You go on a union show,
Right.
you make easily in a day, you can make, $1,500 um just from, showing up and doing what I knew how to do. Like, and I didn't have to do much preparation. I just would walk on set and be able to figure it out. So so that stability was probably the biggest fear to overcome, is that I can take care of myself and be well off without that um without that attachment to that stuff. And COVID helped because, when COVID happened, everybody was going through the shift, and my whole industry at that time had shut down anyway, so nobody was working. But then the phone started ringing and I went back and I started doing jobs and I was like, nah, I can't do this anymore. So then that's when,
What inside of you made you feel that you couldn't do it anymore? What what was that feeling?
well, it was the universe delivered to me a very easy job, not easy job, but an easy job to make that decision, which was, I don't know which version of Call of Duty games, but I don't know if you know the Call of Duty games. They're very violent
I've
and
heard of
lots of killing and a typical video game of, war and destruction and dying. And and that's something I joke around. In the past, I probably, I don't know if I do now is the case, but at least up until a few years ago, I probably held the Guinness World Record for the most deaths performed by a person. Um,
wow.
because in the video game world, you have to die. Like, okay, if I'm going to play one of the video game characters, then if you get shot by a bullet in the head this way, okay, then I have to take the reaction and then die. Then you get shot in the front and I have to take the reaction and die. You get the shot in the shoulder,
Okay.
then you have to take the reaction and die. You get an arrow hits you, okay, that's a different reaction. And, and then
Wow.
so
Wow.
I have literally in one day died 1,000 times.
Wow.
And I'm sore, not from, doing, pretending I'm getting shot, all this stuff, but from falling down and pushing myself up and getting back into the stance and then falling down again and pushing myself. So my whole arms and everything would be sore, literally from just
Oh, wow.
standing up 1,000 times for falling down. Um, so, so here I am, I'm going to a typical Call of Duty. So I'm so used to dying, right? It's my MO. Um, then
Okay.
I'm going on set and then, some of it is just dying. Some of it, there's actual, they want dialogue. They want to, you have to give a performance. So I was playing the main character and, for a scene, and, he was an MK Ultra, you know, this was in the 1970s during the Vietnam War. I was being drugged and I was being tied down
Okay.
and interrogated and tortured and all this stuff, right?
That's
Which I'm
horrible.
good
Yeah.
at. I know how to do that. It's easy. I've done it a million times. But I was doing it, and then as I was doing it, I was like, because I took a break, right? So I hadn't been working for almost by the time I get that job, I only worked a few jobs. It was like a year. or several
Okay.
months had gone by since, so I hadn't worked, and I've been immersed in Interview with Ed. So I'm doing more editing, working on season 3, hanging out with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I'd realized, I was like, man, this is what am I doing? Why am I putting my energy into this this garbage? Like I'm helping this, I'm putting my essence into just complete nonsense. Like, I'm a fan of video games, but the games like Call of Duty, there's really no reason we should have games like that on our planet. And I did get some royalties, but just reading some of the questions here. So then I saw how my energy was going into this character, and this character was going to be seen by all these kids playing this video game, thinking, how cool is it that this guy's getting MK Ultra'd, and then then he's going to go out and he's going to kill all these other Viet Cong and Russians, and this stupid spy thriller thing that they're trying to make, Cold War story, whatever it was. It was your typical kind of BS story, which we've heard a million times. And I'm like, I just don't need to be lending my energy to this garbage anymore. Like, my energy is more valuable. My time and my energy should be used for producing positivity on the planet and not negativity. And that's when that was driving home that night. I was like, I'm done. I'm never going back to that world again.
Wow. Wow. I mean, did you think about the content that you were personally producing that has to do with like not being part of war and destruction and all of these violent things? And then here you are,
yeah, I know. I was just like, I'm a total hypocrite.
Split personality.
Yes, totally. And well, and the other part was my justification for going back to those types of jobs was it was fun to hang out with the guys on set and to just, shoot.
Friends.
Yeah,
it's
shoot the
your
shit.
world.
You were just kind of like, goofing off. We're having a good time. It's whatever. And I'm not really thinking about the work so much as you're just hanging out with friends.
Yeah.
Because I've done it so much that it's autopilot for me. I don't have to think. It's not work just to go hang out, eat some craft service, right? Big Hollywood set. And what happened with the whole COVID thing was there was all this massive brainwashing around the getting the test and these different procedures that had to be done on set. 6 feet distancing, don't get too close, wear your face mask, don't put they literally had COVID police on set. They were hired by the unions to make sure everybody followed and abided by the COVID rules, which also on set, I would call, this is all bullshit, because I would call it out. I'm like, well, how come you're wearing a mask here, but then we're on set and we take off the mask and we can do our scene and we can get all do it. And then we're still in the makeup person's, and then, but put your mask right back on. Like, that person would have been infected. This person infected. We all would have been infected just now, just by doing that. So why are we doing this real ritualistic, facial? It was just stupid. So I called it out too, which also made everybody feel uncomfortable, which also didn't, let's not call that Reuben guy back, because he's too much of a problem.
He's not a follower.
He's not following the status quo. So that was another reason too. I'm like, I'm not, there's no more fun. There's no more, the fun part of it is out.
Together and socializing.
And I'm putting my energy into something that I know is going to be counterproductive to the evolution of humanity. So I'm like, okay, I'm tapping out.
Wow. And so when you finally decided, okay, I'm separating from this, it is difficult because you have to understand, like, this was a dream of yours since you were very young. Yeah. Whether you've been through these shifting points of your own evolution and your own truth, there's still that inner child that was like, but this was my dream.
Sure. Yeah. That was there.
And then it's just like, but I have found a new dream.
Yep.
And it's kind of neat because it's like having a dream within a dream. Sure. Right. In a sense. So So the reason why a lot of this is important is because it has to do with a lot of the evolutionary points that people are going to be faced with
I see.
right now,
Okay.
going through their own shift in consciousness, working on their own shadow work, realizing what they have been playing a part in, what they're contributing to, how they're emotionally like being electromagnetized and used and all of these things, right? We're all going to become aware of what's going on. And we're going to go, wait a minute. That guy is not just a postman. That's Trevor. He lives up the street and he grows great radishes, right?
Right.
It's not he's the postman or she's this or, right? There's so much more to us when we start actually connecting with who we are, what our truths are. That doesn't mean like every postman does this. This is what every postman does. This is, if you're a postman, this is who you are. Like that whole labeling that we have created within this society of this density. And when we start coming into like figuring out like who we are as an individual and watching your evolution and having you speak about it to everybody right now actually shows everybody kind of a little bit about what we're all going to be going through. We have to face our fears, right? What was your fear? How am I going to make it without this dream that I created? Okay, well, who is Reuben? Reuben can do things. Reuben's good at this. Reuben is this. Reuben is that. So Reuben has these things that he can put together to make this work, to build a new dream that actually is in vibrational form of what Reuben is, not Reuben is stuntman.
Yeah.
Or Reuben, the video guy,
Right. And that was sort of the thing, we always define ourselves by what we do, right? Who are you? What do you do? Even when you don't even ask what do you do, you say, who are you? Our knee-jerk reaction is to automatically tell each other what our careers are. And I think so many people, their career is not an accurate representation of who they actually are.
No. And that's part of what the fourth density consciousness of information is going to be about, like, and no more energetic enslavement in a sense, right? Because we're not going to be as much in fear. We're going to be taking our empowerment back from our sovereign selves, because we are powerful beings that can create with our own energy, and we can do it ourselves. We've been told we can't. We've been told we need these other sources, these other things. And when it comes down to it, it's like you said, COVID was the jumping off point for people to realize, whoa, when I'm not at work, I'm in my house. I actually like this house. What the heck am I doing?
Right.
I don't like work. What work? Like, why do I go and do that every day? We started questioning things. We started trying to come inwards and figuring out more of who we are, taking our power back, breaking down the energy that exists. And that's what we're going to be doing more of, and we're going to start creating things that sustain life for all of humanity in a more humane way. But we can't do that without knowing what we're creating and how it's wrong what we're doing now. See, where was that point that you found that what you were doing, you didn't want to contribute to that anymore? What made you feel that it was wrong? What made you feel that that's not what you wanted to do anymore? That you had to have that consciousness of awareness.
Yeah.
And that's what people are going to start going through as an individual, and we have to be accepting of that person may not do what they've always done for this or this or this anymore. That person has figured out who they are. Now they're going to do this. And then it's going to be beautiful because of the things that they will create from the things that actually do feel in alignment with them. Yeah. And that's part of what the feeling process is. Like when I ask you, like, how did you feel? What were you feeling? Because those are the keys. That's the key to the fourth density consciousness. And so let's talk just a touch about Avatar 2. So you watched Avatar 2 in Japan.
I did, yes.
In Japanese, obviously, right?
No. It was in English with subtitles. So it was it was a 3D IMAX, it was the best viewing experience that we could get. And we went with my wife and her mom. And
Oh,
yeah, it was awesome. It was great. I had low expectations because I had heard so many people talk not so good of it. But when I saw it, it just brought me back to because I'm so familiar with all those. I worked 4 years with those people. It was a lot of the same people. There's new cast members, with the kids, but the
yeah.
stunt people, a lot of the stunt people were the same. The cast, obviously, much of the same people. So it was very familiar.
Sorry. So you're watching this movie and it brings back the good feelings that you had while you were working on set with all of the familiar people and things like that,
Mhm.
right? But now you are this transformed person and you're okay with where you're at now, but this thing still exists here. See, and that's kind of what I want people to realize and understand is that as we're going through the fourth density consciousness shift, that some of these things will continue to hold the polarity and we
Mhm.
can be able to sit and accept these things without being emotionally charged, if
Right.
that makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
It, and so that's a really good example of a little bit about what that's going to look like. But yeah, on a massive level, I mean, the war of energies is going to be over everything. Like, what are we keeping and what's going and who's in charge, who's not in charge? Do we need someone in charge? What are we making? What food systems are going to stay? Which ones are going? What's
Yeah,
destroying humans? What's causing cancer? Like all of these things are going to come into our reality to be dealt with.
mhm,
And so that's going to be we have to figure out who we are first before we can deal with these things.
totally.
And so that's part of what we're going to be going through with this shift. Now, I understand that people do have question about the overlay a little bit, and the overlay has not happened. And they did do a test molecule from the overlay. So they
Mhm.
took one small molecule from the overlay and they implemented it into the collective consciousness of our reality, and it was not detected. And I came through under the hypnosis that we did. I think it was session 5. Those questions were asked. And all the sessions are down right now because we are working on a book to
Right.
actually transcribe and put all of the sessions out just for everybody to know. So we are in the works with that right now. We're working diligently on that. Um, so, but the new information that I have gotten about the overlay is that what they want to do is they want it to just slowly and simultaneously come in and overlay without too much disruption or too much like people knowing that it's actually happening. Now, we can't overlay an entire different vibration into our reality right now because we don't have any of that vibration in existence here yet. And it has to start with the people first. So they want to do the overlay simultaneously and slowly, and it hasn't happened yet because we have to start shifting parts of this reality first. So the overlay can slowly just simultaneously be integrated into this reality and overlay over it that whole vibrational shift. But right now, it would be non-detectable. We wouldn't even be able to live in that existence because we're not creating from that existence at this point. And so we have to start shifting and doing that. And that's why all of these things are starting to come into play. These things are starting to happen. Like the truths are being disclosed and all of these things. A little bit about what Reuben and I have talked about with closure and the alien closure on aliens.
Mhm.
I
You're
feel that
breaking up a little bit more. You were talking about disclosure.
and how a lot of people think that the aliens just want to be disclosed. They want us to
Mhm.
know about them and their existence and that they're here and all of those things. And there's been slow little leaks. They're trying to work into us getting used to the idea that aliens are here and for us to not freak out because
Right.
they programmed us to freak out about any of that kind of disclosure and the things that they've told us. Oh, they probe us and they're negative and they use
Sure.
us as scientific research and studies, and they do these horrible things to humans. Okay, so that's all their programming that they put out about the aliens.
Yep.
And the aliens are like, okay, we've had enough.
Yep.
We're all not like that. There's different polarities of us, just like there's different polarities of any of the dimensions. So, angels have their polarities, and fifth dimensional beings have their polarities, and light beings, and all of these beings of existence have their different polarities. And they're saying, no, there's a good part of us, and we want to be disclosed because we're here to help humanity during this shifting phase. And not only do we want us disclosed, but we want disclosed that we were not the ones that have done all of these horrific things. Not just, if you know what I'm saying, they would pretty much want disclosure over the humans are doing heinous acts to other humans, and what that is, and why those humans are doing it, and why it's causing cancer, and why our food's this way, and why our government systems are corrupted, and how we've been lied to. I really feel that the aliens want those things disclosed as well, because how are they going to help us integrate a better existence and grow past things if we're still trusting in something that's harming us?
Yeah, I've sort of thought that as well, that disclosure, we use the term disclosure in the UFO community with ET disclosure, but for our interview with Ed community, it's more disclosure of everything, right? This is and it's much bigger. It's a much bigger uh realization than just beings flying around in a flying saucer coming from another world or even dimension. Like this exploration of interview with Ed has been grandiose and it's not just the different types of beings and all the different entities and archetypes and dimensions and timelines and all these different things, but also the many layers deep in our own society and in the human experience, and how there's been so many secrets, so many atrocities that have been ongoing that we just have not been privy to or aware to of in our day-to-day society, because by design, the society sort of hides and covers and doesn't put a spotlight on those things, so those things can continue to, the parasites can continue to grow and take from the unaware human.
Yes, exactly. A little bit about, from what I understand about the parasite, is it's a race of beings that descended and kind of infiltrated our planet. And because of their dissension, because they existed within a different energetic force, I would say, and then had to descend, and they came onto our planet, they really have no energetic connection to create here because they're not originally from this dimension. And so we're from this dimension. We're created here. So we have energetic support here and a line to divine to create within this reality. And so because they don't, and they understand that, they have put us into the fear, right? And the struggling and all of these negative emotions, right? And these emotions get so heightened that it creates energy that they can literally use against us to create in our own reality. And that's kind of a little bit of what some of the disclosure of what they want told us. Like, you don't need to trust in this anymore. This is lying to you. This is feeding off of you. This is not serving you. This is actually not who you are and what you came here to do as a light being in your reality. And a lot of that truth is coming through to all of us.
Absolutely. We see it, we're seeing it in our day-to-day lives as well, in the physical. I guess let me just, before we go too deep into this, because I know many people who are privy to the show are going to ask, well, isn't everything all one? Why are we even creating this story or telling about this story of this other group of beings that is manipulating and parasitical in its process? Isn't that perpetuating a us versus them type scenario? How I know, and I know you have a good answer to this. That's why I'm asking. So, what would you say to that type of questioning?
No, I don't think there's an us versus them. I think that they
Okay.
exist and they have purpose as well. And their dissension has purpose. And also because of their dissension and their feeding and what they've kind of repressed us and made us believe in the programming that was instructed here and infiltrated genetically through our DNA and passed down over and over and over again, that this is what you have to do to survive this reality. And you have to go through fear and you have to go through these awful emotions so they can feed off of that. Essentially, what that did was allow us to our greatest ascension point where we're at today. So without that, then what would there be?
Yep. No, I get it. It's a catalyst for our evolution. And
For human evolution,
we
absolutely.
we can choose to look at it as a us versus them type of scenario, but then that would just feed the same energy that is, as you said, is as what they're feeding off of, right?
Right.
What they're, um, yeah, it's different. I mean, I get it, but I know there's going to be a ton of people that are still, well, can we just manifest, or can we just imagine that that doesn't exist? And and
No, we have to learn
we
to
could, but it's
accept
also,
it.
well, I know, as I'm saying, we could go into that direction, but then there's a physical, tangible aspect to our physical reality that we're experiencing collectively on this planet, and to deny what is being experienced by billions of people on this planet would that to me that would be sort of in delusional, or but maybe we need some delusion to go over it or above it, or pass through it.
Maybe,
These are,
maybe to help some, yeah. But what I would say is that when we run from something like that or try to ignore it or try to pretend like it doesn't exist, we're doing the very thing that we've done for years,
yeah, I agree.
pretending that we're not enslaved, that we don't have to go work that job that we actually weren't designed to do.
Yeah,
We're
I
just
mean,
ignoring it, right? It
that's the
doesn't
thing is,
exist.
if we ignore it, we're still in the same paradigm. We're not shifting
Right.
our actual physical reality. We're just sort of going along with the status quo, and in a sense, accepting is the key. Accepting that this is the way it is, but we're not making any changes to our
Right.
choices. We're just sort of getting drained by the day job
Well,
and
and
the
not
financial
only
stuff.
that, but we're going to stay where we're at because denial is actually just another form of fear because you won't face the thing that you don't want to look at, the thing that you're ignoring.
Yeah.
And so you're just staying vibrationally into the lower vibration in itself. And so when I say forth into the consciousness of acceptance of all things, which means that that this thing exists,
Yeah.
you know what it's doing, you understand it. You're not going to uncreate it because we're not the divine. We didn't make it, but we can create within this reality what we do want once we figure out what it is that we feel we want. But we have to understand what that is, and we have to understand what that feels like. And we have to understand that what we're fearing. We're fearing this us versus them thing. There is no us versus them because without them we could not ascend because we wouldn't know that any different. We wouldn't know any different.
No, I agree 100%. I agree 100%.
And and so it's kind of like being able to sit in the same room with it without fear.
Mhm.
Can you sit in the room with that energy and be completely content with who you are, with what you're creating, what you're doing? while still in full acceptance that that exists.
Yeah, with in dream time and in ceremony with sacred ceremony with ayahuasca, I've had some run-ins with some of these darker energies, and
Yeah.
the more you
And the other realm, right?
in the other realms, yeah. So what I've learned is the more interaction in those realms that I've had, and then dealing with it in those realms by just being firm and strong with who I am, and knowing that, and that I'm not interested in those darker, um, whatever they're trying to do in those realms. But it's clearly a dark thing,
Right.
and sometimes you're invited. I've been in Dreamtime invited to some of these darker realms. Sometimes my curiosity is like, okay, I'll go so far to just
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
explore. But then I'm like, okay, yeah, drawing a line in the sand there. We're not going there. You stay over there. I'm over here. See ya. And then they stop. They don't come around.
Yes.
And I noticed that that's part of the training is just being in this realm and in Dreamtime and all the time. The fear will come, but knowing who you are and what your values are, and your integrity, staying in integrity with yourself and who you are, that those things can't even touch you.
No, because you're fully aware of who you are and what your frequency is and what you're creating and what you're doing, that you can sit in the room with that dark entity in that
Yeah.
other realm. I understand exactly what you're talking about. I too
Yeah.
have had many of those
I'm
experiences.
sure you
And
probably
so,
way more than me, I'm sure.
yes. And you just get used to the fact that creation at its finest has all the polarities involved to create.
Mhm.
And creation is beautiful. And when you realize, yeah, it's dark, but it's been created for whatever reason,
Mhm.
can you just sit with it's a creation?
Mhm.
It has its own purpose. That doesn't mean that you have to go into its purpose. You have to do any of those things, but you can accept that its existence is there. Now, if this thing tries to infiltrate you, you have empowerment over it, which means, hey, you either go or guess what? I'm shifting you into my vibration. And if you don't want that, you're out of here. And that's where we take our power back. I'll sit with you in the room, but if you come over here and you start messing with me, there's the door. I will create the door. You can leave now. And if you don't leave, I've warned you. I have the power to transmit you because I am the one that is embodied here. I am the one that can create here. You cannot.
Mhm.
So I will transmit you into something that I like within my vibration. So you've been given the option.
Mhm.
And that's kind of how I deal with some of those things. And I think in our world, we're going to be coming up with some of that.
Sure.
The
Yeah.
clashing of the energies, which
Mhm.
energies are going to exist past. When we're transmuting, creating new, learning who we are, reconfiguring all of these things. I mean, it's absolutely fascinating. So, yeah.
It is. And in this talk, I think Bashar even said, as we expand our consciousness, it's not going one direction, in the higher frequencies, it goes both directions. So you become aware of more things, even in the darker realms, but it doesn't mean your awareness doesn't mean you have to be of that vibration. You can,
No,
you can be in the higher vibration and make that shift, but just out of natural, awareness, your spectrum expands. So more and more dark stuff is gonna come up, and I think that's what we're stepping into now collectively. Is to, a lot of us have been doing the shadow work since COVID. A lot of us have doing the
yeah,
deep dive and stuff, but collectively now we have to expose a lot of that on a collective level.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that's, I think, the next stage is collective shadow work. And then like you said, I
Yes,
think the tools you gave is like, just don't get caught up in all that. Stay true to who you are and find our purpose and then really sit into that emotion of who we are and who our purpose is and why we're here this time.
exactly. And that's going to serve our reality that we're creating so much more
Mhm.
than doing this us versus them. Then we're literally recreating the same exact energy that it's already here. You know, it's really just learning to accept what is the truth of things and then going, okay, now me as a person, what do I feel about this and how do I want to create knowing this truth? You know, what do I want to be a part of? What do I not want to be a part of? And taking our power back as an individual. And then when we come together as individuals, empowered is how we create bigger shifts and changes within the reality. That's literally what we're going to go through.
Yeah, I mean, and many of us are sort of already in that. Laura's asking, I don't know how to do shadow work. I know that's a big topic. Probably,
Okay.
but yeah, maybe what tips do you have for that? Someone who doesn't even know what shadow work is, like, how do we start?
Shadow work
Mhm,
is something that emotionally triggers you.
mhm,
You may not understand why it's even triggering you in the beginning. And to figure that out, like something that makes you angry, something that makes you very sad, something that makes you depressed, these are heightened negative emotions that are living within our body and our soul that exists that we're carrying within us on a daily basis. It's an energy vibration. So to really know thyself is to know how you're feeling, when you're feeling, and what you're feeling. So Reuben and I could be having this conversation, for instance, and let's say he's like, let's say I don't believe in aliens. Okay, I do.
yep,
Everyone. I do. But let's just say I don't. And
mhm.
I'm in this conversation with Reuben Langdon, and Reuben's like, well, I believe in aliens. I have proof and all this stuff, right? Now, where do you think my emotions are going to get? You're going to be like, this guy's triggering me. Like,
Mhm.
I don't know why he believes in aliens. This is crap, like,
Yep.
what? That's your biggest key right there. Not that Reuben triggered you. That's not the issue. It's not Reuben. Reuben was the key to help you see what your trigger was. Now you go home and you ask your subconscious that records everything at all times.
Wade's
And
right.
you say,
Yep.
okay, subconscious, when was the first time I felt this heightened emotion? And your subconscious is going to bring up a memory of something that happened to you. And that's how you start working on your deeper shadow work, because those are the things that live and reside within you. See, the emotion is energy and motion. And that's how we create is through our emotions. So if we are sitting here triggered every day by every little thing and all these heightened emotions, do you think we're really creating from a place of our true sense, essence, and purpose here? We're
Which
not.
is hard, but it's hard
Yeah.
because it's a fine line to decide am I taking action because I'm afraid, or am I taking action because um I'm excited? And especially when we're seeing society and things crumble around us, there's a lot of fear that then, survival, going back to that survival thing, right? So how do we survive this collapse of society? So then that's just a fine line because there's fear there. And I think what you were saying earlier is really try to find the things that excite you and build and creative energy and not use the fear. But still, fear is a powerful motivator.
Yeah, it can, because it
Mhm,
actually shows us what we don't want.
mhm. Yeah.
And that's the beauty. Like a lot of people run from these emotions, they run from everything, but actually, true higher density consciousness says fear exists for a reason. And fear
Yeah.
is actually leading you on the path of what you want to do if you can face the fear and understand that this fear exists, but it's no longer going to control you because you choose to sit with that fear and figure out what you're afraid of. Okay, well, I'm afraid of this happening. I'm afraid of this happening. Well, why? Where's the foundation of this, and this? Well, it started because I don't think I'm gonna have a place to sleep at night. And you got to that point starting at I was at my sister-in-law's house and we were fighting over a board game. And you took it all the way back home and you went down the rabbit hole of what actually was going on and what it was going to. And you're figuring out your truth. And then you're like, oh, well, is that true? No, it's not true. Okay. So I can sit with it now.
Mhm.
I'm not going to run from it. I'm not going to blame somebody else. I'm not going to struggle with it. Being able to sit within thyself, mastering thyself, which you totally understand that.
Yep.
Someone can control you through your emotions. That's what we live in. We
Yeah.
live in that reality.
Totally. Every TV commercial.
TV work, it's the music,
Yeah.
billboards, the radio, the conversations with people that are programmed, right? Just everything. And so, like, there's no way for a higher vibrational overlay of a reality to be here until we figure out that we haven't created a space for it yet. Because we haven't learned how to accept creation from its origination point and understand its existence.
Say that one more time, because I think you hit the nail on the head.
We haven't understood energy from its creation point and the truth about its existence.
And can you define that in more detail?
Yeah. Yes, I can.
Okay.
So when divine creates something, it takes both polarities to create it.
Mhm.
I like to always use the angels as a perspective. You can't have a high vibrational angel without a low vibrational angel because you wouldn't know the difference.
Mhm.
So if you were in fear, then how would you know what you're not afraid of?
Sure. Yeah, that's the whole duality reality.
Yes, that doesn't mean run from your fear,
Mhm.
right? That doesn't mean be afraid of the lower vibrational angel. Understand that it exists and it has a purpose and it is from a higher understanding of creation that you don't comprehend
Mhm.
because you can't sit within that realm of understanding creation at its origination point. We shouldn't be in fear of these things. We should be able to sit in the room with these things and understand that we do have an empowered creation within ourselves to know its existence and see beauty in creation and all of creation because there's a reason for all of it.
Right. Um, this creation place, though, which I believe is unconditional love and acceptance, and uh, so this creation place. So how do we get there? Obviously, we do the shadow work. How do we know we're creating from that space as opposed from the fear space or from some of these other pressures from society and other people and uh, all that stuff?
Well, you
Identify
have
that
to ask
space.
yourself why you're creating it.
Okay. And if it's out of fun and excitement and passion, then those are probably good markers for, okay, this is the right the right thing, good place to create. And if it's out of
Well,
fear
yeah.
or
Okay, so
lack
why would
mentality.
think of a CEO, okay, of a
Yeah.
company. Um, when they're faced with certain decisions or things that they need to create within the company,
Hmm.
what do you think that they're creating from? What space are they creating from?
That I think that depends on the individual, but ultimately, a lot of them are just
Right.
some are driven by money, some are driven by just pure excitement, um, not thinking about the money. It depends on the person.
Yes, it definitely depends on the person.
Hmm.
And so the reason I bring that up is because we are our own CEOs of our own reality existence.
Hmm. Good way to look at things.
You're running your own company
Hmm.
every
Totally.
day.
Yeah, yeah.
What are you creating from? What decisions are you making? Why are you emotionally making these decisions and naturally tapping into that and figuring that out? We have such beautiful minds in this world that are going to come out with inventions in a forced density consciousness where they're not trying to survive something. They're not in fear of losing their job or surviving or having a house, or they're not trying to be a billionaire or, like all of the egotistical things that are built within this reality. When they wake up, you have this computer programmer and he's just like, I want to make this invention that waters plants from upside down. And then he has to sit there and go, well, why? Well, because of this, this, and this, and this.
Hmm.
But it's not because he's in fear of his job. He's not in fear of losing his house. He's not trying to become a billionaire so he could show off to his friends or flaunt this, or he simply is coming from his heart space
Hmm.
and creating.
Which many inventors do. Most inventors and creators do that. However, for example, in the free energy space, I've talked to many inventors, and even to this day, I'm talking to some inventors about stuff. And one of their main reasons for not pursuing their creations is, quote, I don't want a target on my back.
Yep. The
So
fear.
the fear of, because of their colleagues, or they've been told that if they produce something of such grand power, then they are going to be taken out.
Right.
And there's lots of moments in history where that has happened,
In
and
the past.
examples in the past.
Yep.
Yes. That's what I say. I say in the past. This time it's different. We're going to do it differently this time.
We're trying a different
Mhm.
experiment for sure.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
We're trying to integrate a reality within a reality.
Hmm.
And so that way we don't have to die and have a different reality. We want to create it here while we're here, having this reality. Without, some of the other experiments that they've tried to do this in the past, it has caused mass destruction
Hmm.
and terrorists within the realms and all kinds of things.
Well, one of
And
the
so,
things that I know has shifted too is that some of the inventors I'm talking to, they're kind of like done with, oh, I'm going to make the secret thing that's going to make tons of money, and then,
yeah,
free the energy paradigm of the world. They're more localized. They're more like, I'm just going to make it to make it, and I don't care. I'm not going
yeah,
to worry about patents. I'm not going to worry about the
that's
traditional
the old world.
monetary systems. Yeah. So that gives me hope that it'll probably, these, when they're in that mindset, that it'll have more success, in the sense that, not success on a big global scale that it'll get out to the masses, but it'll just, in the fact that it'll get made. So there's
Right.
a lot of things that don't even get made because people don't even, they have great ideas and they don't even attempt them to build them, because they're, the old paradigm sort of shuts them down.
Yeah. And that's why we're seeing the truth of the old paradigm being so exposed,
Hmm.
because the people are going to turn away from that and then they have to figure out where they're going after it's all been exposed. And
Hmm.
that's the biggest question is, where do we go from there? Well, it looks different, right? We have to start from a different place because we're not being controlled and we don't really know how we feel about things yet, but we have to learn how we feel about things. We
Hmm.
have to start figuring out in a humane way how to sustain life.
Hmm.
And we know that this causes cancer, and we know this does this, and that was the easy way to take a pill, but that pill causes this. So what are we gonna do? There's gonna be a lot of things that are gonna
Yep.
come to the surface, and people are gonna have to come together as their sovereign selves and their other vibrational qualities coming
Hmm.
together and figuring things out and connecting on these different levels and creating the reality within the reality. And that's why, disclosure about the aliens is it's huge because they do want to help us integrate some of this otherworldly frequency technologies and way of sustaining life for us. They've
Hmm.
already done it. Um, but we have to tear down the fact that we trust our government and this fear that they keep putting out and that they're going to help us. They're going to feed us. They're going to do these things. And then it's all of a sudden, it's like, no, those are the people that are giving you cancer. Those are the people that are enslaving you. Those are the people that, and then they're like, oh, wait, they told us this stuff about the aliens. What if that's not true either? Should we trust them? I don't know. Maybe. So see how it's all unfolding
Yeah.
in this different, you know, situation. And then all of a sudden it's like, wow, we open up that connection, right? Little by little to start communication with these other entities and energies. I mean, aliens is such a broad label. There's so many different dimensional beings that want to connect with us and help us ascend past this point. And they understand
Yep.
what has happened to us as a human race. And they understand where we've evolved to and the risks involved if we continue moving forward on this vibrational path.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it doesn't look good if we continue on the
Right.
same. But I mean, but right now, I mean, the path we're talking about is, I think, a different path. But the sort of the old paradigm path. You mean, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That leads to not a good space for most people, for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Well,
And so that's what I say, like to give
yeah,
everybody a little insight. I think, okay, World War III, whatever people want to call it,
yeah.
the war is going to be over. What energy is going to stay in existence to continue the polarities while we have a reality within a reality? And once
Mhm.
you understand that, then you can see why everything's coming up, why everything's being exposed, why all of the biggest things in our world are all happening all at once.
Mhm.
And it's for us to figure out what is going to be transmuted into something else and what is actually going to stay and who's going to do this and who's going to do that.
Yeah, I think we all have our roles, though, for sure. Whoever decides to
Oh,
stay
yeah.
in this plane of existence, it's not about
Yes.
sitting around and waiting for kumbaya to happen. I,
No.
I I definitely want our kumbaya moments. I'll be doing lots of kumbaya and tree hugging and that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. But
Yeah.
we'll be doing it. We'll definitely have work. We have a lot of work ahead of us. Like there's
We do.
yeah, there's a lot of building the new earth. That's a big message here in this show. Is like, how's that going to look? What are we going to do? And I think you gave us some good nuggets to chew on and to meditate on, and then hopefully we can we're all already doing the work, but we can uh you know amp it up a little bit and
Now we
prepare a
have a
little
little bit.
bit.
I think I'm hoping I gave anybody a little bit of something to chew on,
Oh,
some
yeah.
perspective.
Somebody has their hand up here. Let me, sorry. I didn't. Oh, Lisa, yeah, hop in. This would be a great time. We'll kind of close it up with questions here. Go ahead.
Yes. Okay. Um, thank you
Hi.
so much. Hi, Beverly. Amazing friggin' conversation. Um, okay. I just wanted to make sure I got this in before we end. I want to go back to Chiron because I thought that was so,
Yeah, it
um,
is.
yeah, right. So, I don't know much about astrology. I want to get into it eventually, but how do I go about, um, I don't even know where to,
Finding it.
yeah.
Everybody, I love the website astro.com.
Astro?
ASTRO.com. So astro.com. And you can pull so many different kinds of charts. This is just a basic natal chart, knowing what your soul actually was imprinted with and came here as a soul wound from lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. You finally came here during this shifting point to finally heal it and help ascend into this fourth density consciousness of acceptance of all of the energy. So everybody's going to have a very unique, deep soul wound, and that's part of what's going on. We're healing this so we can, move into this other vibrational understanding.
Yeah.
In the physical, it's not like we live this whole life here in this lower vibration. We're always fighting and surviving, and then we die, and then we get shown our life and what we did wrong, what we could have done better, and all of these things, and then we to figure out in our light body what we're doing. This is different this time. The people that are staying incarnated and have soul contracted out to stay and help with this shift are helping shifting vibrationally here and creating this new reality, like physically. That's why it's important.
Yes. My God, I just want to cry. That resonates so much. So Chiron is a comet, yeah?
Asteroid.
So are we wanting to know where the asteroid was when we were born?
Yep.
Okay. So we
It's
need
your soul imprint.
it's our soul imprint. Okay.
Yep.
So if we go to astro.com, we can find that out.
Yep. They have all of the different asteroids and everything that in a list that you can click on. Generally, Chiron will show up in normal charts anyway. So even if you have an Apple phone or an Android phone, some of these free astrology websites that have your natal charts, pull up your natal charts, it will show Chiron. And Chiron is a key. If you don't know anything about astrology, just figure out what house and what sign it's in, and then just start really digging deep with those two energies and figuring out how that what that fear is that really resonates with you that you've come up against in your lifetime. You'll start figuring it out. Like some people might have Chiron in the fourth house of home, and they have fear of maybe having a family and settling down and having a house and one place and, all of these different elements, but it's going to look different for each person. And that's the beauty of it.
Okay.
And why? Because it's a collective healing. It's not just it's the same problem for everybody and everybody has to heal the same problem. No, we're collectively healing energy as a humanity. And it's all connected.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I mean to make you cry.
Oh no, it's amazing. And then just really quickly, I missed the part where you were talking about what it means to physically ascend.
Yes. So physically ascending means doing the shadow work, which is doing your Chiron. What I explained, that deepest soul wound, that fear, that thing that will draw up anxiety and fear like nothing you've ever felt. I feel that. I even feel it a little bit before tonight's talk. It's getting easier for me the more I do it, the more I come out and speak these deeper truths, these taboos, these deeper knowledge of the spiritual realms. And I'm speaking it, I'm communicating it out of my mouth because that's Gemini. I'm communicating it. And Gemini is also the twins. So it's the polarity of energy. So I'm speaking the polarity of the deeper subjects that people need to know. But I've been killed for it. And that's where the anxiety and the fear comes from. So I'm healing that by coming out and speaking to everybody about the things that I'm being told and that I know. So it's going to look different for every single person. So it's interesting. I'm do your Chiron.
Yeah, right on. And then, but what were you saying? Do we physically? What were you saying about that?
When you physically ascend, okay, it means that you're shifting in your vibrational frequency.
Yeah.
So let's take Reuben's story, and that's sorry, Reuben, but I used him as a huge example tonight, and I didn't know any of this stuff about him, which made it even more interesting for me. But I knew that he had this big journey and this shifting point of how when he became awakened to his truth and what he was doing and what he was creating, he realized this is not who I am anymore, even though that's what I thought I was. And I thought that's what I wanted. But now that I am vibrationally shifting and becoming aware of how I feel emotionally, what I'm vibrating at emotionally, what I am and emotions are energy and motion. So every time we have an emotion, we're creating from within that emotion. So the whole world has been stuck in this ego and survival and this fear, right? This emotion. And we've created this reality out of fear and struggling and all of those things. So once we start working on our fears, our deepest soul wounds that have incarnated here with us in the third dimensional reality, that's what Chiron is. It's our deepest soul wounds that have incarnated with us here in the third dimensional reality. And that's why you have to work on that. Like, it's huge, because then you're going to start feeling your true emotions. You're like, why am I in fear? Where is this fear coming from? What, and when you start understanding that you don't have to be as afraid of it and start working on it, start unraveling it. I like to take it a little bit deeper when I do shadow work. And I will ask the subconscious, when was the first time I felt this feeling? It will bring it up. I will go into that memory. I will play it out and I will feel every emotion while that memory is playing. And then when it's over, I come back out, I gather myself, right? Because there's a lot of emotion involved when you're dealing with a memory that has been, you're storing it inside of your cellular DNA and you're creating from these emotions. So when I gather myself and I go, okay, I'm going to go back in and I'm going to transmute what happened in that memory. I'm changing it into what I want. So I go back into the memory, and let's say my parents were fighting and it scared me when I was a kid. Okay. And all of a sudden I'm back in the memory. The parents start fighting. And I go, okay, what did I want to feel in this moment besides afraid? This scared little girl. I wanted to feel like my parents loved each other and they loved me. So all of a sudden I'm gonna go make a noise and I'm gonna make my presence known. So my parents know I'm in the room while they're fighting. And then they're gonna look at each other and go, oh, we are so sorry. We're fighting in front of you. We love you. Please come here. And then they embrace me and they hug me. And they say, we were having a disagreement, and explain to me what was going on. And that's my own personal way of transmuting that energy from the subconscious point. But you have to feel it. So it can't just be role play. You have to actually feel your parents embracing you, loving you, hugging you. You have to feel safe in the memory. And once you exert all of those emotions that you wanted and the memory's over, you bring all of that back into the present. And now you have healed a deep inner child wound all on your own. And you didn't need a counselor.
That's amazing, because I'm on long-term disability, and I've been going through all of this like shadow work stuff, and I want to do Ronald Holt's inner child workshop, but then he said I needed to do the prerequisites of the meditation for life course first, and then the quantum navigation. So eventually I will be doing this inner child's workshop, which I've known in my core that I've needed to do for so long. And
Yeah.
I've just given up. But anyways, I'm really resonating with everything you're saying. And I feel like this is something that I really have to do. And then when you spoke about Chiron, I was, holy shit, that's like, that's getting right to the core.
Yeah. It cuts right down to the deepest wound that you came here with.
Yeah.
And it shows it to you and exposes it. It's just transformational.
Good.
Follow everything that you feel and continue on your journey. Continue your healing. That's what you're here to do. We all are here to be empowered to do the things that we feel. Don't let anybody judge you over this or that or tell you anything that's their truth. That's not your truth. It's just about finding our own individual truth and being able to accept that's just what that person feels and that's where they're at. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm working a lot on that too, trying to find my truth. Going through a big transformation. Who am I?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bless
You're
you.
welcome. Last thing. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Lisa.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions? I know we've had, this has been an extended call today. I thought maybe it would be.
And I apologize, Reuben, for using you as the ascension
No.
example.
Oh, no. I mean, I hope it's useful for everybody. I have no, that's why we're here. That's why I started recording my journey with the show, because that I knew hopefully somebody's going to get something out of it more than just me.
Yeah.
I'm getting tons, so it has been my journey. So absolutely nothing to apologize for. There's also sound healing. Okay. So, Charmaine is talking about sound healing, with Chiron. And
I can explain it. If
yeah,
you'd like.
there you go. Please.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chiron, like, I don't know if anyone's experienced sound healing or gongs, crystal bowls, tuning forks. There's a whole bunch of that, different ways of experiencing that. But I think it was just maybe 2 years ago that a friend of mine got a gong in the vibration of Chiron. And you can get different gongs that are in vibration of different planets that help heal and support you with that energy of that planet. And you can go online, you can go like NASA actually even has it recorded the sounds of planets, and they have a sound of Chiron. And I listened to that gong, and the first time I heard it, I just started crying, and I was like, what? And then they're like, that's the wounded healer. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm a wounded healer. Like, this is so supportive. It's so helpful. So, yeah, if anyone like hears of sound healing or sound bath using gongs wherever you're living, Chiron is one of the energies, one of the gongs that can come through. So, yeah.
I agree with you
Yeah.
100%. Yes. Use any modality, anything that's going to be helping. I'm working with a lot of different frequencies right now, actually daily in my daily life. And so I'm actually working with, 432, 528, any of the solfeggios, any of the frequencies, any of the alphas, the gammas, all of it. I'm trying to figure out which pathways in my energetic field are opening with these different paths and what that looks like as an individual to myself. So for me, it's like an inner journey, like Alice going down the rabbit hole. Like, what are we going to find today with this, And it's different every time. So yeah, and everybody open yourselves up to anything that feels right, that resonates with you, that's going to help you work through all of these different energies and find the deeper truths of who you are as a person and integrating that here. Yeah, I agree with you. That's beautiful. Yes.
It is amazing too how like these different things kind of pop out out of nowhere and then just affect us. And that's what I felt with the Chiron energy. I had no idea what that was about. And they started playing the gong, and all of a sudden, all this emotion came up. And
yeah,
I was like, I don't speak that language because I'm a 3-dimensional person. I'm human and I chose to be human. But somehow this vibration is affecting me on a vibration that, was transformative. So
the story of Chiron, just a little bit, and I don't remember the full thing, but just off the top of my head, he was an immortal being, and I think it was a centaur actually, and it was the head centaur, something like that, if I remember correctly. But he went to battle, and he was in this battle. Chiron was in this battle, and he's leading it with the other centaurs against other ones, and one of his own and he asks to be immortal, so he becomes immortal. But one of his own centaurs accidentally shoots him in the battle, and he can't die. But he can't be mad because it's his own people that accidentally did it. So when you think about that, you're like wounded, right? Then he has to understand, like, I can't be angry and I can't be upset, even though I'm shot and I can't die. And I'm always going to be in this agonizing pain that I asked for. Like, there's this understanding of energy that comes within that and acceptance. And that's the love energy right there. It's accepting, like, you asked for this, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then you didn't see this happening. And, it's going through the process of emotions and really being able to sit with it for eternity, right? Because he's immortal. And how many times have our human souls been reborn with these issues? From one lifetime to the next lifetime to the next lifetime. And okay, we've learned that lesson. Now we're going to come back and learn this lesson and this lesson, or we've done it this many lifetimes. It's very similar. And I think it's beautiful because this orbit does reach into the fourth density consciousness. And then he comes back in our dimension, and then he goes back. So he goes back and forth. He is literally the bridge. His energy healing our Chiron is the bridge, and now the portal's open so we can actually bridge over into fourth density consciousness.
And Beverly, can I ask, like you mentioned at the beginning about Saturn being and also being kind of that outer edge of the dimensional shift. So when I first heard Chiron, and I'm just speaking about the gong energy, right? That was the first time I experienced it. I felt the need to have another gong play, and it was actually Saturn and Jupiter gong that I played with it, because I was like, this is it. This is beautiful. I'm feeling all this energy, but I'm needing to feel grounded. I need to feel supported. So I love how you describe Saturn as being the father.
He
And
is the
often a
father.
relationship that needs to be healed, right?
Yes.
Especially for women.
Yes. And Uranus, which is Aquarius's ruler, he's grandfather. That's Saturn's dad, which is grandfather to Jupiter. And they just went into the grandfather of the sky. So Uranus used to rule the skies. So he used to be bigger than them, right? It's like the divine, like he rules the skies that we can't see.
Is it important to work with both the energies then?
Yeah. Jupiter and Saturn, when they come together, and that's why the Great Conjunction was important, is because that's a balanced energy. That's their opposite polarities. One restricts and one expands, and they come together, creating the perfect balance. And then they moved into grandfather's house, the sky ruler, the divinity, into the fourth density consciousness of creation.
And so I'm curious, because you seem to know a lot about astrology, and there's lots of questions of people saying, like, where do we go? And you mentioned astro.com.
Yes.
Awesome. I've been on that site for so many years, but it's not enough. It's not enough. You need someone to guide you. Are you able to guide people in that?
Probably at some point, yes. Right now I'm working on a few other projects, and I'm working with Suzanne on our book for the designer series to come out. Everybody's requested that to be transcribed and put into book form. So we're working really hard on that. But yes, I think the two greatest things for anybody just starting out, find out what house and find out what sign. And then study what that house represents and study what that sign represents, and combine those energies and figure out what that means for you. I mean, like I was saying, like mine is 8th house Gemini, right? Gemini rules communication. 8th house rules the taboo, the occult, the hidden, right? So I'm communicating those things. That's my Chiron. So it's very interesting. And I don't mean to like use myself as an example, but I don't feel comfortable using other people's without their permission. So
And how do you find out which house you're in again?
it will be numbered on the wheel. So it'll have 1, 2, all the way through 12. And then it'll tell you. And then the astrological sign, just figure out which sign that is. Like they're all over the internet. Some of the apps, like they have places that you can click on it and it'll give you a brief description even of what it is and what degree and what's happening. And it's very interesting because as the planets move around in the sky, they hit these points in our chart, activating it, going, hey, do this now. So I've had Mars sitting on mine in its retrograde period for 4 months. And boy, let me tell you, I have been feeling it. So Mars is all about, let's do it. Let's not think about it. Let's do it. Let's not think about it. And then when it doesn't like to go backwards, it likes to go forwards. So it's kind of cranky and, that type of thing. And this was the longest Mars retrograde we've been in quite a while. And it finally went direct. So it's going to start moving forward and get off my Chiron finally so I can breathe. Because it's been intense. And it happened the day after my birthday last year. So happy birthday to me. Here's Chiron. So yeah, it's fun when you start learning and understanding how the energies work and what the energies were created for and how it affects us as a humanity and individuals in our everyday existence. It's beautiful. So yes, sound frequencies. Yes. Anything that resonates, anything jumps out at people. Yes. Go into it, feel it. What's it doing for you? Uncover these truths. Like, don't be afraid anymore. If you're afraid, ask why you're afraid. Uncover that fear. It's where we're at. Oh, and one other thing for people, if you feel restricted in your life at any point, it means you haven't given yourself enough doors of opportunity. So if you're feeling like, well, this is all that I can do, I can only do this or this, that's never true. That's only what you've created. So you have to open and create more doors. There's always more doors to open. So if you ever feel restricted, create more doors.
And we'll finish. This will be the last question here. Christine was asking about the Saturn worship, some of these darker forces, so-called Illuminati. And there's a lot of, I think, what is it? Baal or some of these other darker energies are associated with Saturn. What's your take on that?
Saturn is created as an energy. And if these people want to go in and take the energy from what it's created and drive in these negative aspects of this creation and worship it and do all of these things, anything in excess is pretty much not what you want to be doing. So
Sure.
that's all these societies and all that what they're doing. And it's putting out a lot of fear. Right? Don't look at Saturn. Saturn's associated with this. Saturn's this.
Right.
Saturn's that. Yep. No, Saturn literally is what you feel about Saturn, not what they feel about Saturn or what they want to worship or what fear they want to put out about Saturn. Saturn needs to be what it needs to be for each individual. So you need to sit with Saturn's energy and understand it from yourself. And what I'm sharing with people is what I've sat with. And yes, I understand all of these darker energies exist, but they exist because of fear.
Yeah, we feed them. We feed them with our fear. We give our power away by, don't go there. And then we kind of let those people and energies take over other aspects of our life without, if we were to go in there sometimes and say, hey, stop it.
Right.
Then maybe they would stop. But we're like,
we can give our self-empowerment away to these societies that want and choose to do what they want to do with that energy. That's their business. It's not our business. Our business is to figure out who we are and how we feel empowered with the energies and not let them tell us what we should feel or not feel or go
Right.
into or not go into. And that all stems into, you know, the religious stuff that's going to start surfacing as well. So always, every single person, I will say this over and over again, find your own truth, go down your own rabbit holes, feel your own feelings. Do not let someone else tell you what your feelings are. Do not let anybody else tell you what your truths are, because we're individual created souls from divine, here to do different things. And one person's truth is going to be different than the other person's truth because they're here to do different things. So don't accept other people's truths. Find your own.
Yep. That's
Does
awesome.
that help?
That resonates with me. That seems to be in
Okay.
line with all the messages I like to put out there too. So thank you so much. Yeah, it's been a great 3 hours. We've been on the phone. 5, 6, 7, oh wow, 3 hours. So again, we're definitely gonna have to do some more of these, you know,
Yes.
time
yes.
to time check-ins, and just appreciate you sharing your knowledge and wisdom, and super excited about your designer book with Suzanne.
Yeah.
Do we have an estimate when that might be coming out, or is it still too early? You're still in the
Too
mix?
early still.
Okay. Gotcha.
But I believe they're fully transcribed, and now we have to go into putting it all together and what does that look like. And so I can't give a time frame on that yet because we're in
Sure.
creation mode.
Yeah.
I want a time limit on creation. So
No. We'll let it
Yeah.
organically evolve, but we'll definitely keep us posted.
Yes.
And you're on our members page, so don't be a stranger. Hop in and say
Okay.
hi sometimes on the community page. And or if you're super busy, you know, we'll just check in, and then I'll share any downloads that might be coming through,
Definitely.
some urgent stuff. But I agree. We got a couple of bumpy roads to come in the next couple of years here, but it's all for the greater good. It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's for our evolution as a human species.
Very good.
So
Well, cool. Thank you, and we'll
thank you.
talk soon. And give my regards to John and everything. I know
will.
you guys are dealing with some rough times, so thanks for taking time
Yeah.
and doing this call.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you,
Awesome.
everybody. Much love and light.
All right. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you like this interview. We actually do this every week on my membership portal page. And you can access it through interviewwithed.org or click on the link somewhere in here. I'll put a link, and come over and join us. You too can ask questions. Every week we have new special guests, and you get to ask questions directly to the channelers and to the beings that they channel. So see you in the portal.